Chapter 709, Duanren City. Besides, said the girl in a very low voice, lowering her head. She wanted to say something but words wouldn't come out. What is it again? Said Lin Feng while staring at that girl. They hung the 3 bodies on a wall at the Duanren border and insulted Xueyu. They said that Xueyu didn't have any strong cultivators and that nobody could protect the country, said the girl in a low voice. Lin Feng gnashed his teeth and a thread of blood flowed down his cheek. Little Feng, someone wants you to leave the imperial city and to go to Duanren City, said Yu Menghe. Even though she hadn't exchanged much with Lu Zhanglan in the past, she knew that he was a heroic and incredibly benevolent general. She was also saddened by his death. She still wished that he would be avenged though. I know, said Lin Feng nodding. He obviously knew that someone wanted him to leave the imperial city. Someone had sent that fake Qi Xia soldier to him. And then he had killed himself after having been uncovered. Besides, he had smiled in that evil way. Ren Qingquang had gone to Duanren City with incredibly strong beasts but had still died. In order to do that, a cultivator had to be at least the 8th Xian Qi layer. Besides, in such battles there were always extremely strong cultivators to manage. Somebody knew that Lin Feng was close to Lu Zhanglan and understood Lin Feng's temperament. Lin Feng had to go to avenge those who were close to him and had been killed. Perhaps someone from Xueyu had participated at that battle. Xueyu, whispered Lin Feng. Everything sounded ridiculous. Lu Zhanglan had always protected Xueyu and someone in Xueyu could have plotted against him. Lin Feng, you should go, said Meng Qing smiling. Yu Menghe was astonished. She looked at Meng Qing and said, Meng Qing, the wedding is in a few days. If he goes, everything will maybe be lost. Besides, nobody knows who's really behind all of this. He could die. But if Lin Feng leaves, someone could be here in the imperial city waiting for him to leave and kill us. Yu Menghe, if Lin Feng doesn't go he will regret it his entire life. I don't want him to suffer because of our wedding. Besides, it will affect his determination if he doesn't go. Lin Feng has said many times that he wants to break through to the Tian Qi layer. He needs to stick to his initial intentions, said Meng Qing in a soft and gentle voice. She was suggesting that Lin Feng had to go to Duanren City. The wedding wasn't the most important thing. She couldn't prevent Lin Feng from listening to his own heart. Lin Feng touched Meng Qing with his hands. She looked so pure, so innocent and so beautiful. I will definitely hurry and come back. Wait for me, said Lin Feng looking at his mother. You can go, said Yu Menghe sighing. She knew that Meng Qing was right. Lin Feng had to go to Duanren City. Thank you, Mom. Lin Feng then rose up in the air and his winged tiger appeared. Let's go, said Lin Feng jumping onto the back of the winged tiger. While moving out of the bamboo forest, he broke some branches and some bamboo leaves flew in the wind. Sad songs were resonating in Lin Feng's head. He wanted to drink the blood of Mou people. The general had died. They had no homeland and no home. Apart from grief, people in Duanren City had no other feelings. In Duanren City on the ramparts, there was Lu Fei. She had become a stunning young woman. She was very mature. However, she was in a Qi Xia armor and had a white helmet on her head. She was crushed. Her heart was shattered into 1,000 pieces. She was desperately looking at her father's corpse hanging on the walls of Duanren border and she felt powerless. Mississippi. Let's go and fight to the death, said an old man behind her. That old man had followed her father for many years. Her incredible general had died in such tragic circumstances. Yes, let's fight to death, miss. We are not afraid to die, said someone else, but their words couldn't affect Lu Fei's heart. She just shook her head gently and said, No, nobody can fight. But... Miss. Shut the hell up, shouted Lu Fei furiously. The old man then stopped talking. Lu Fei had become an adult but the general had died already. Even though she had the magnificent body of a woman, she had no strength. What could she do? They knew that Lu Fei was crushed. After remaining silent for a moment, the crowd looked at the general's cadaver in Duanren border and then sighed. "I can't stand it anymore," shouted a soldier furiously. He immediately left Duanren city and threw himself in the direction of Duanren border. "Come back," shouted Lu Fei furiously, but it was too late. In a flash, 1,000 arrows came from Duanren border and impaled him. He died in a flash. The soldier's eyes were still open and staring at the general's body. He then slowly collapsed while looking at the 3 hanging corpses. Blood appeared and flowed down on the ground. That person hadn't even closed his eyes in death, he wasn't resigned to abandon his general. That tragic scene made even more soldiers furious. Their eyes were bloodshot, so much so that it seemed like blood was going to flow out of them. Boom boom boom. Suddenly some buzzing sounds spread in the air. People in Duanren city were stupefied. They looked at Duanren border and saw some people move. At the foot of the mountain were more people moving. Was MOU making its troops retreat? Horses were galloping and the 3 corpses were taken down after that the troops left. Lai Yun and MOU were retreating. Why? Everybody was baffled on the ramparts of Duanren city. They didn't understand why the 2 countries had attacked but weren't persevering. They had killed the officers and the general as well as many extremely strong ferocious wild beasts. The enemies were extremely strong, they could have annihilated anyone in Duanren city. However, they weren't attacking anymore, instead they were retreating. What was their goal? MOU and Lai Yun had fought on the front together. "Why retreat?" asked an officer from Lai Yun in silver armor, to the ones in black armor from MOU. They looked even more cruel than the people from MOU. "How can I know what they're going to do?" said the general from MOU looking emotionless and indifferent. "Where are we going?" "A few dozens of kilometers away, in the eerie Death Mountain chain." "Fighting is good, but why go so far?" "Besides, in the depths of MOU, said the officer from Lai Yun. He was surprised. "We agreed to destroy Duanren city. I came with a powerful army, so why not kill them?" "Nobody asked you to stay. If you want to stay here and wreck their city, do it," said the one in the black armor with a cold smile on his face. He looked like he was making fun of people from Lai Yun. "A powerful army? Ridiculous." "All right," groaned that person coldly. The officer waved and people from Lai Yun stopped. The MOU general smiled coldly, his army was divided into 2. At that moment, people from Duanren city invaded Duanren border again. Lu Fei was at the top of Duanren border and gazing into the distance at the 2 armies coldly. "Miss, there are still some people from Lai Yun, let's fight them," said the old man. If they didn't break through the barricade created by Lai Yun, they wouldn't be able to grab the corpses. "Indeed, let's fight, miss. Otherwise, the corpses will be lost." Lu Fei's eyes were bloodshot. She remained silent for a moment and then said slowly, "All units, let's mourn and then get prepared to fight." Chapter 710, Lin Feng's arrival. There were many troops gathering at the Duanren border. 5 kilometers away, there were people from Lai Yun. They could attack at any moment. They didn't need to take the initiative since Duanren city had decided to attack, they were going to become a bunch of corpses, but Lai Yun had to fight. The hoofs of the horses were emitting loud sounds in the air. The atmosphere was filled with deadly energies. After a short time the troops of Duanren city had finally gathered. A white light appeared and it was dazzling, especially in the middle of all those red armors. At the very front of the troops of Duanren city was Lu Fei. She was riding a red horse and looked expressionless. She had learned how to fight with her father, she was used to blood and cruelty. She had become stronger and more determined than ever. Even though her father had died, she could still lead an entire army. If she lost her temper, her troops would lose theirs. She raised her head and gazed into the distance to see a tragic scene. "Father, I will not give up. I wasn't able to protect you and I might not be able to avenge you, so now I will fight to death. I hope that you won't blame me, whispered Lu Fei in a low voice. Lu Fei then bent her body and started shooting arrows which emitted whistling sounds in the air. Die! Die die! Die die die! Lu Fei's voice kept resonating in the air, the atmosphere was filled with a deadly energy. The army also threw themselves at the people from Lai Yun. The general of the Lai Yun troops gazed into the distance and smiled coldly. He then unsheathed his long sword which emitted ice-cold lights in the air. People from Duanren City are so weak. Without the order to withhold our attack, you would have died many times over, whispered the general from Lai Yun. His sword was pointing at the army moving towards him. The sound of the horse hoofs was resonating everywhere in the region. It seemed like the ground was going to break apart. Die! The ground kept shaking, the sky too. There were deadly energies everywhere and whistling sounds were growing louder and louder. Some Lai Yun people then rose up in the air and their silhouettes flickered. Their qi was extremely powerful. They were all strong cultivators of the Xian qi layer. For an army, cultivators of the Xian qi layer were already extremely strong. Die! Shouted an ice-cold voice. Some pure qi rose up in the air and more people died. Qi Xia troops were elite, but when facing cultivators of the Xian qi layer, they had no way to resist. Die die die! That group of strong cultivators of the Xian qi layer from Lai Yun couldn't be stopped. They were annihilating people one after the other. Lu Fei raised her head and looked at the cultivators of the Xian qi layer in the sky. She released her arrow spirit and a terrifying arrow appeared. She put that arrow in a bow and her horse started galloping forwards. She then rose up in the air. Lu Fei had already broken through to the second Xian qi layer. Her arrow landed in someone's hand, making them cry in pain. That person had broken through to the first Xian qi layer. He was staring at Lu Fei in an ice-cold way. Lu Tsanglan's daughter must be taken home so Olive can have fun, she's probably very sweet in bed, said some perverted people staring at her. They were very aroused by Lu Fei's red clothes, they looked as hot as fire. Pay attention, said one of them looking evil. They had been in the army for such a long time, it was boring. They surrounded Lu Fei again and another arrow appeared in her hand which made them groan coldly. A terrifying physical strength then attacked Lu Fei. The arrow lacerated that physical strength, but at the same time, many other people were attacking her. She groaned in pain as she was projected backwards. Boom boom boom. There were galloping horses in the distance and around them was a cloud of dust. The crowd looked at Duanren border and saw several dozens of thousands of troops. Qi Xia troops, all of them, thought the crowd surprised. When Feng Yuhan heard that Lu Tsanglan had died, he ordered their troops to come with him. Were they going to attack? Everybody listen to me. Lin Feng is coming from the imperial city, I heard that. Please persevere, said the officer to his troops who had all broken through to the Xian qi layer. Then they rose up in the air. The army rose up in the air in front Duanren city, but the fact that Lin Feng was coming didn't make them feel better. Even with Lin Feng, what could they do? Lin Feng was too young and couldn't keep such a dangerous situation under control. They didn't know that Lin Feng was very strong. Humph. Some troops groaned coldly and more people rose up in the air. They all had huge blades in their hands. Die, said two people moving like the wind. They then attacked two cultivators of the Xian qi layer with their blades. Miss Lu. We are sorry for General Lu. Now, we will take care of you, said the two cultivators, their qi was extremely powerful. Lu Fei looked ice-cold as she took out a sword, however her sword was immediately broken by the enemies as an energy wave bombarded her body. Blood gushed out of her mouth. Miss Lu, you don't need to suffer so much. We will always love you, said two cultivators moving towards Lu Fei, whose face had turned deathly pale. Strong cultivators from Lai Yun were so much stronger than Duanren City's people. Roarer. In the distance a beast was roaring. People shivered and raised their heads, then they saw a red beast. It was a ferocious ancient animal. Its wings were clapping at full speed. General Lin Feng arrived, said some Qi Xia troops who had come from the Yunhai sect. Lin Feng then descended from the sky. Arrow, shouted Lu Fei loudly. Immediately after, her bowsprit shot an arrow which cut through the sky at full speed. Die! 2 other people with blades then lacerated her arrow and continued chasing her. Destroy, said someone behind Lu Fei coldly. The atmosphere was filled with a monstrous sword energy which could lacerate everything. However, the blade energies had still managed to hurt Lu Fei and sent her backwards. Lu Fei then sensed a gentle energy grab her body and prevent her from falling down. She realized that she landed in someone's arms. She could see some footprints on the ground that were left by an animal. She then turned her head around and was in disbelief. She had seen those eyes already, they looked deep and enigmatic but as before twinkling. There was some coldness inside of those pupils now. Back then, he looked infantile but now he had become mature. He looked even smarter, it was the same young man as before but with a completely different qi. She couldn't even sense that qi clearly. Stand up, said Lin Feng putting Lu Fei on the back of the winged tiger. He turned his head around and looked at the 2 cultivators using blades. He then released an ice-cold energy, it seemed like the ice-cold blade of a sword. That energy immediately penetrated into those people's eyes, they were terrified and their hearts started pounding. That young man was very strong. His terrifying sword energy then rose up in the sky, they were shaking. They couldn't help but shake violently. At that moment, they were bathing in an infinite amount of sword energy and couldn't break free. Die, shouted an ice-cold voice. Whistling sounds spread in the air. A terrifying sword light streaked through the sky and those 2 people started shaking brutally. An infinity of sword lights impaled them, they were fixedly staring at Lin Feng and were terrified. The wind was blowing on their bodies, the sword light covered them once again. Their bodies turned into dust and the wind blew them away. It was astonishing. Chapter 7:11, Great Regrets. Many people were looking at that silhouette in the sky, they were so focused on him that they were even forgetting to fight. The young man who had just arrived was terrifying. He was even more terrifying than all the beasts which had come before. That young man didn't look imposing at all, but in front of Lu Fei, he looked like a mountain. A mountain that was impossible to destroy. She remembered the first time she had seen Lin Feng in the valley where she used to practice cultivation. She had chased Lin Feng to kill him. Lin Feng was extremely weak back then, he was extremely skinny too. Step by step, she had witnessed his rise. Even his father liked Lin Feng a lot and had hoped that his daughter would someday marry Lin Feng. Lin Feng, these days didn't even need to move but he could release a terrifying sword light which could cover the entire atmosphere. He had become much stronger than Lu Fei, Lin Feng's sword light was as strong as 10,000 swords together. It could lacerate everything, it was astonishing. Lu Fei couldn't imagine what it was like to be that strong. She had never thought that Lin Feng would become that strong either, she had the feeling that she hadn't seen him for a century. Lin Feng and Lu Fei didn't belong to the same world anymore. At that moment Lin Feng looked ice-cold, despising all the enemies. He then shouted, "Everybody stop." His terrifying voice rolled in the atmosphere like sound waves making everybody's brain shake. Some people even started shaking violently. Everybody was forgetting that they were there to fight. They raised their heads and looked up at Lin Feng. Duanren city troops, move back, said Lin Feng in an ice-cold way yet extremely firmly. The Duanren city troops, of course, knew who Lin Feng was. That young man, who at that moment was riding a terrifying ferocious ancient animal had, in the past, set the city on fire and saved everybody. Was he going to influence the battle again? Last time, Lin Feng had proved how smart he was. The troops chaotically moved back, moving away from the Lion troops. They were moving very fast. Lin Feng, like a hero, had made the entire troops move back. All the troops were listening to Lin Feng without hesitation. Of course they trusted him. Thanks to what he had done in the past and also thanks to his strength at that moment. Can he really change the course of the battle alone, by himself, whispered Lu Fei. That was a really peerless cultivator. Being able to affect the course of a war alone, just like Mo Jie's teacher, Han Mo, and the principal of the Celestial Academy No. 1, Yan Yuping Sheng. With their strength, in the past they had been able to affect the course of an entire war. With the strength of one strong cultivator, the course of an entire war could change. Had Lin Feng reached such a strength? Very quickly, the troops of Duanren City and Lai Yun were away from each other. There was a big empty area between them. Both armies raised their heads and looked at Lin Feng. The general of Lai Yun narrowed his eyes. There was no extremely strong cultivators with them. Was that young man extremely strong? Go and kill him, said the general to two strong guards on his side. Those two were guards of Lai Yun. They were some of the strongest cultivators they had. They had both broken through to the 6th Xian Qi layer. He didn't believe that Lin Feng was that strong. But those two cultivators looked solemn and serious. They were strong enough to know that Lin Feng was a real threat for them. With his attack a moment before, he had showed them how strong he was. They couldn't afford being careless. The two cultivators jumped into the air. However, Lin Feng didn't even glance at those two people. He put his hand on his back and unsheathed a sword. Buzz! The sword was emitting some buzzing sounds. In Lin Feng's back appeared a blood-like red light which rose up in the air. It seemed like he was attacking the clouds as a terrifying sword energy then invaded the entire atmosphere. The two enemies were stupefied. That sword energy contained sword intent. The red light had appeared and made the earth and sky shake. Whistling sounds were spreading in the air. That sword chi and intent were terrifying. The crowd had the feeling that they were being oppressed. The two enemies in the air suddenly stopped. No. It doesn't look good. The two of them started moving back down, but it was already too late. The crowd saw Lin Feng's sword descend and the bright red light streaked across the sky. The two cultivators were lacerated like minced meat as blood gushed everywhere. However, the blood didn't fall down, it moved back and penetrated into Lin Feng's bloodthirsty sword. That sword could drink blood. The two cultivators of the 6th Xian Qi layer had been destroyed in a flash. Everybody remained silent. That sword made excitement and ardor invade the hearts of the Duanren city troops. However, the troops of Lai Yun were terrified and shaking. After a short moment, the troops of Duanren city shouted furiously as if they had been trying to evacuate their sadness and fury. Back then, a mythical hero from MOU had appeared and he had been wearing black clothes. He had killed a massive amount of people. Now they were the ones who had a real hero on their side. He was strong enough to be called a hero. That young man had traveled over huge distances to save the princess in the past. He had then tricked the MOU troops into Duanren city and had set the city on fire. Now he had already become a real hero. You will pay with your blood for what you have done, now you will regret it forever, said Lin Feng slowly. A massive amount of sword intent appeared, people's hearts were pounding even faster. Lin Feng made a step forwards, took a deep breath and it seemed like his sword intent could annihilate the planet. You will pay with your lives, said Lin Feng, his eyes were bloodshot and looked cruel and ferocious. Die! Die die! Die die die! Lin Feng shouted the word, die, which resonated in the atmosphere like waves. The earth and sky were vibrating. The sword chi was emitting loud whistling sounds and the sword energy turned into a real sword light which moved towards the army of Lai Yun. It was taking their lives one after the other, just like specks of grass. The people from Lai Yun were collapsing one after the other. They looked extremely weak at that moment. The sword light kept moving and nobody could stop it. That oppressive sword light was incredible. After Lin Feng's sword energies streaked across the sky, filled with sword intent, blood started flowing on the ground like a river. Lu Fei and the Duanren city troops were stunned. Lin Feng had really become monstrously strong. He had just killed a few dozens of thousands of troops in a flash. They had heard rumors that some extremely strong cultivators could cut through mountains, kill people as if they had been cutting specks of grass, and could kill millions of people in a flash. However, they were only now understanding what those rumors meant. Those rumors were not groundless. Such strong cultivators existed. Lin Feng was furious and was doing those things. Blood kept flowing like a gigantic river. Under that sword light, everybody had to die. People couldn't breathe under the pressure of that sword light. They raised their heads and saw Lin Feng raise both his hands. The sunlight was shining upon Lin Feng's bright red sword. It was dazzling. The red light then streaked across the sky and lacerated another group of people. Not a single one was left. The other group left was terrified. Their hearts were pounding violently. Dozens of thousands of strong cultivators were like tiny little insects in front of them, just like specks of grass. Those who were still alive lied down on the ground. They were sweating intensively. They regretted so much everything they had done. The general of Lai Yun was also shaking. Now he understood why the general of Mou had left. Staying there would lead them to their death, and the mystical cultivator in black clothes hadn't appeared this time. Die! Lin Feng's bloodthirsty sword was pointing in the direction of Mou. Horses started galloping at full speed. His qi had invaded the entire atmosphere. The Qi Xia armored horses were moving forwards and galloping on the corpses of the people from Lai Yun and on the bodies of those still alive, killing them on the way. In the end, nobody survived and Lin Feng's sword kept moving towards Mou. Chapter 712, Bloodbath in Mou. The armored horses were still galloping at full speed. A cloud of dust was floating in the air around them as the ground was shaking beneath them. After having destroyed the troops from Lai Yun, the Duanren city troops continued moving forwards into the territory of Mou. People were running away terrified when they saw that army approaching. In the air was a gigantic ferocious wild beast. It was a ferocious ancient animal and it was bright red like fire with gigantic wings. Each time it clapped its wings, it could travel across a kilometer, creating a hurricane all around. Lin Feng and Lu Fei were on the back of that beast and remained silent. Lin Feng looked as cold as before and it seemed like that ice qi could cover an area of hundreds of kilometers. They were gazing into the distance but there were no troops from Mou anymore. They had heard that on the day before, the troops from Mou were still there but now they had disappeared as if they knew Lin Feng was coming. Someone had probably told them that Lin Feng was coming. Lin Feng was convinced that all of that was a conspiracy. Someone had plotted against Lu Lan, the Duanren city troops, and someone was still plotting against Lin Feng. Lin Feng firmly believed that those who were plotting were the people from the imperial city. Only people like that could do something that big. Whistling sounds kept spreading in the air at the same tempo as the wings of the winged tiger. They kept moving deeper into the territory of the country of Mou. In front of Lin Feng appeared a gigantic mountain chain. That mountain chain was extremely dangerous and filled with a terrifying death energy. A terrifying black energy rose up in the air. It seemed like that terrifying black energy was filled with demons. Lin Feng looked at the mountain chain. That black fog could easily hide an entire army. Maybe there was an illusion inside. What a terrifying corpse and blood qi. How many people's lives are required to create such an illusion, thought Lin Feng and then said, I will enter alone, Qi Qiong, and you can stay here. Then, the winged tiger stopped in the air. Lin Feng had immediately jumped into the black energy. His strength of the Haruka started rotating in his body. He was surrounded by a golden light illuminating the world, delivering sentient beings from suffering. Evil energies couldn't compete with that golden light. The black fog even moved aside. Evil was afraid of that pure and holy light. Lu Fei was astonished to see Lin Feng's body turn golden. Lin Feng could turn into a golden Buddha against which evil couldn't do anything. How incredible. Lin Feng's body was surrounded by a magnificent golden light. He was penetrating deeper and deeper into that black fog. He continued chanting some mantras in Sanskrit as golden Sanskrit letters were moving out of his mouth. Golden hands kept bombarding the atmosphere, and then horrible shrieks spread in the air. The black fog had weakened. A terrifying sword light then appeared. Lin Feng transformed into an authentic golden Shakyamuni, and he was releasing monstrous amounts of sword energies. Lin Feng's soul was extremely strong, but Lin Feng was realizing that the black mountain chain was like an endless black hole. He didn't know how deep it was. In any case, if it was an illusion, it couldn't be controlled by a simple soldier of Mou. Die! Shouted Lin Feng furiously. An infinite amount of sword qi lacerated the evil qi. Lin Feng was moving at the speed of sounds, but that evil qi was becoming more and more powerful as he got deeper. Some roaring sounds spread in the air. An evil qi turned into a zombie dragon which emitted whistling sounds in the air. It opened its gigantic mouth, unveiling its putrid cavity. It wanted to swallow Lin Feng. Lin Feng didn't stop chanting his mantras in Sanskrit though, and the golden letters kept crashing onto the zombie dragon, gradually ripping it apart. The body of the dragon was progressively losing its strength. However, with those bones, the dragon didn't have any sensation of pain. It kept moving towards Lin Feng without fault. Lin Feng jumped forwards and into the mouth of the gigantic dragon. His golden body didn't fear evil energies. The dragon swallowed Lin Feng in one bite, but then Lin Feng released a monstrous amount of sword light which cut through everything and destroyed the dragon. Lin Feng didn't stop after having destroyed the dragon. He continued diving into the depths of the mountain chain, bombarding the illusion with his golden body. His sword light also continued lacerating his surroundings until he completely destroyed the illusion. However, in front of him there was still an incredible amount of terrifying qi and many zombie dragons filled with evil qi. The illusion is not so big, it cannot harm me, but it wants to stop me, thought Lin Feng coldly. His golden light then progressively transformed and turned black. It turned into an evil energy. Lin Feng turned into a demon. Yiksha, Azura, an indestructible demon, said the demon as 3 demons appeared. The Azura was opening the way, the Yiksha was releasing killer energy, and the indestructible demon kept destroying the illusion in front of them. Lin Feng was moving extremely fast. That illusion was extremely strange. It seemed like it was endless. Even though Lin Feng kept destroying it, he couldn't see the end. Time, Lin Feng was pulling a long face. He had no time. He then rose in the air and raised his bloodthirsty sword. He released some level 5 sword intent. His sword descended from the sky. The evil qi was cut into 2 and the atmosphere divided itself. I arrived, thought Lin Feng suddenly. He was speechless. He had arrived at the end. He followed the road he had created with his sword. The infinity of corpse qi disappeared and a big road appeared in the mountain chain. There were many corpses on that road. In front of Lin Feng was a hill. In the middle of that hill was a huge crowd. The troops from Mou were all there. The people in the hill were all wearing the clothes of high-ranking military officials actually, and they also had 3 bodies as trophies: Lu Zhanglan, Ren Qingquang and Feng Yuhan. Lin Feng looked emotionless as he released a terrifying ice energy. The troops looked at Lin Feng. How brave. Surprisingly, he had come alone and had managed to destroy the illusion. How strong. Die, said Lin Feng, raising his bloodthirsty sword in the sky. The terrifying sword could destroy the earth and sky, it seemed. Its qi astonished the crowd. They looked terrified. That sword qi was terrifying. Die. His bloodthirsty sword then descended from the sky. It seemed like the atmosphere was cut into 2. An infinite number of small red lights appeared and crashed onto the hill. Blood splashed and gushed out of the mountain. With one sword, Lin Feng had killed a massive number of people. With only one sword, Lin Feng had managed to make the army of Mou panic-stricken. What was going on? That young man was terrifying. How could he kill so many people in one attack? Lin Feng didn't care about them. He raised his sword again as red lights like blood appeared again, and then his sword descended from the sky. An infinite number of horrible shrieks spread in the air at the same tempo as blood was gushing ceaselessly. The troops of Mou were actually scared to death. What was going on? A group of cultivators of the Xian Qi layer threw themselves at Lin Feng, but Lin Feng raised his hand and slashed the atmosphere with it. All those people died in a flash. All those cultivators of the Xian Qi layer had been unable to withstand a single attack. They were terrified and panic-stricken. How could such a thing happen? Where was the mystical cultivator of Mou? Boom, boom, boom. The ground was shaking as a cloud of dust was flying in the air above the mountain chain. The troops from Shuiyu were also arriving. The illusion had disappeared, so it was easy to come. Lin Feng had wasted too much time because of the illusion. The troops felt even more courageous and full of courage and vitality once they saw Lin Feng hacking away at the enemy troops. Die, shouted Lin Feng in a terrifying voice. When the Qi Xia troops continued to trample on their enemies' dead bodies as they rode into battle, Lin Feng kept moving forwards while the high-ranking military officials kept moving backwards. Lin Feng, stop, said someone on the side of Mou. That voice was familiar. Lin Feng was a bit surprised. He raised his head and saw a young man whose face looked hideous. Chapter 713, The Crown Prince of Mou, Mo Jie. Lin Feng was stupefied. He had already met that person. It was the Crown Prince of Mou. He was an incredible genius who was really difficult to defeat. He had only lost in Duanren City against Lin Feng back then. However, even though it was only Mo Jie's silhouette, the voice sounded very similar. Your Highness the Crown Prince, said those terrified troops from Mou. It seemed like a hero had come to save some insignificant people. Mo Jie made a step forwards and penetrated into the hill. He then looked at Lin Feng coldly and said, Lin Feng, it's me. A subtle sound spread in the air as Mo Jie took off the mask on his face. The crowd was absolutely astonished. Had the Crown Prince of Mou Mo Jie always been wearing a mask? The high-ranking officials from Mou weren't surprised though. They had already seen Mo Jie's mask. The young man in front of them was their real prince. However, Lin Feng was even more surprised at that moment. He was staring at that person, Mo Jie. A few words slowly came out of Lin Feng's mouth, Yun Fei Yang. The Crown Prince of Mou was surprisingly the one who had gone to Miqing with them and had participated at the great competition of Shuiyu as a genius. Yun Fei Yang. And on top of that he had become one of Lin Feng's great friends. He was the Crown Prince of Mou. No wonder nobody knew who he was in Shuiyu. No wonder he had said that he was from Duanren City, and no wonder Lin Feng hadn't recognized him with his real face. It's me, Lin Feng. I am the Crown Prince of Mou, Mo Jie. But I have another name, Yun Fei Yang, said Yun Fei Yang looking glum. The people of both countries were astonished, even the high-ranking military officials of Mou. Lin Feng and Mo Jie knew each other. Their crown prince had finished 10th at the great competition of Shuiyu. He was extremely strong, he could definitely protect them. The general and the 2 officers can't have died for nothing. You killed them, said Lin Feng while glaring at Yun Fei Yang in an ice-cold way before adding, they died because of you, so you will die too. Lin Feng had become one of Yun Fei Yang's great friends. However, because of Yun Fei Yang, Lu Tsanglan had died. How could they remain friends? If I did it, I am willing to bear the responsibility and die, said Yun Fei Yang looking glum. Back then, during the war, he had seen that Lin Feng and Lu Tsanglan were good friends, and then his general had killed him. No need to kill them, said Yun Fei Yang coldly while pointing at the high-ranking military officials. Their hearts were pounding. They had the feeling that Yun Fei Yang was quite weak in front of their prince. It seemed like Yun Fei Yang was sure he was going to die in Lin Feng's hands. Step, Yun Fei Yang jumped forwards and arrived in front of the 3 hanging corpses. He looked at Lu Lan and then immediately knelt down onto the ground. Everybody was astonished. Yunfei Yang was prostrating himself in front of the corpse, his head was frenetically bombarding the ground emitting bumping sounds. He then raised his head, blood was flowing on his forehead. We have been at war for 20 years and now you died in the hands of the troops of MOU. Please forgive me. Then Yunfei Yang prostrated himself once again very violently, his head brutally crashed onto the ground. I am ridiculous, I left the country and then told the general to help me. Even though you refused, I still wanted to forget the misery of the last years. And now the result is tragic. Please forgive me. Then Yunfei Yang was prostrating himself again. Because of me, the general and 2 officers died. Many troops were killed and injured, it is my fault, please forgive me. Yunfei Yang then slowly stood up and cut the ropes on the corpses that were hanging, he then carefully grabbed the corpses and put them down on the ground, flat. Yunfei Yang then moved in front of Lin Feng again and some letters appeared in his hand, they were all written by different hands. One handwriting was Mo Jie's. The other handwriting style was Lu Lan's. Yunfei Yang and Uncle Lu had been writing to each other just like Yunfei Yang had said, they had made friends. They had been talking about everything together. Yunfei Yang had proposed to Lu Lan to leave Shuiyu and become the general of a big army in MOU. They would have then tried to invade Shuiyu together and Lu Lan would have been at the top of the operations. Lu Lan had refused though without explaining why. Lin Feng, this is the last letter I received. He must have written those words before his death. Unfortunately, I went and hid to practice cultivation, if I hadn't confined myself he might not have died, said Yunfei Yang handing over a letter to Lin Feng. Lin Feng opened it and saw some words written with blood. Mo Jia, no this time I will call you Yunfei Yang. This might be the last letter you'll get from me. I made friends with Lin Feng and you are both geniuses. I am happy with what I did in this life, it wasn't in vain. I refused your offer many times, it wasn't because of Shuiyu because I have stopped believing in Shuiyu a long time ago. However, I have many brothers in Duanren City, they would have hated me if I had betrayed them. They would have been fighting all those years for nothing, the only thing that would change the situation would be if I died. Fei Yang, after reading that letter, if you have the opportunity, talk to Lin Feng for me. If someone can see those letters, it has to be Lin Feng. What I wrote in them is what I want to tell Lin Feng, little Feng, if you ever see that letter, it means that I am already dead. Don't have doubts about Yunfei Yang, my death has nothing to do with him. The people who killed me are not from MOU, people from MOU cannot kill me so don't kill them. Those who killed me are from Shuiyu. Little Feng, don't try to avenge me but do your best so that my brothers don't die worthlessly. Please take care of Fei Fei, that is my most important request. Lin Feng was shivering, Shuiyu had killed Lu Lan. Lin Feng rose up in the air and handed the letter to Lu Fei, is it Uncle Lu's handwriting? Lu Fei lowered her head and looked at the letter, she started shaking violently. It is my father's handwriting, no doubt, said Lu Fei with a trembling voice. Shuiyu had killed her father. Lin Feng, I will explain everything to you, said Yunfei Yang. He then looked at the troops from MOU, his eyes were twinkling as he said, where is Mo Feng? They looked left and right and were shaking, the chief commander of MOU, Mo Feng, wasn't there. Mo Feng, get your ass over here, said Yunfei Yang coldly, glancing at the crowd. In a flash, a silhouette rose up in the sky. That person was wearing a normal armor, that person was the incredible chief commander of MOU, Mo Feng. Your Highness, said Mo Feng landing on the hill and bowing calmly. When did you start betraying MOU? Asked Yunfei Yang coldly. Mo Feng smiled and shook his head, you have personally come here, Your Highness. I have no way to escape so I will probably die. I can tell you the truth, about 5 years. For which Shuiyu person are you working for? Asked Yunfei Yang. You've been betraying us for 5 years. Because of you, people from Duanren City, people from Mou and people from Laiyun have been dying unceasingly. Huan Shuiyu is so cruel and so heartless to make you do such things. Who started such a diabolic plan such a long time ago? Who is able to calculate so far in the future? Chapter 714, The Rock. Incredibly, the crown prince of Mou was Mo Jia, also known as Yunfei Yang. He had lost in Duanren City in the past, and one reason for all those defeats was Mo Feng had betrayed Mou. When Yunfei Yang wasn't there, Mo Feng used to be the chief commander of Mou. Mo Feng had been on Yunfei Yang's side for 5 years. Because of that stratagem, Lu Lan and 2 other officers had died. On top of that, many of Lu Lan's troops had been injured or killed. However, Shuiyu didn't care because they didn't appreciate Lu Lan, and in any case Lu Lan's army didn't belong to Shuiyu. Shuiyu wanted Lu Lan to die. They had always wanted to eradicate Duanren City from the map. Because of that stratagem, people from Laiyun and Mou had also died in huge quantities. The only entity which could be at the origin of such a thing was Shuiyu. Shuiyu had sent some elite forces which couldn't be blocked by Mou and Laiyun, and they had killed people from both countries. In the end, they had killed 2 birds with 1 stone. How wonderful! Lin Feng was fixedly staring at Mo Feng. He had already guessed that someone evil was behind such a plan. What a disgusting person! Speak, said Yunfei Yang while jumping forwards. He then raised his hands, which immediately landed on Mo Feng's shoulders. Some crackling sound spread in the air. His shoulders were broken, however, Mo Feng was still smiling. Your Highness, I have no choice but to admit that you are extremely talented and gifted. No matter if we're talking about intelligence or cultivation, you are a genius. You will become a hero, however, compared with him you still have much to do. Even in times of peace and prosperity, he will become an incredible hero, but you are not cruel enough, you don't have enough hatred in your body, said Mo Feng slowly. He then closed his eyes and said, Your Highness, kill me, I deserve it. Yunfei Yang looked pale and cold. He wanted to kill Mo Feng. He then raised his hand, he was about to kill him. Wait, said Lin Feng. Yunfei Yang's hand stopped in the air. He then turned his head around and looked at Lin Feng. You think that we will avenge the death of a few hundreds of thousands of troops with your life? You are a worthless dog. You're ridiculous. Die. No, you are too trivial, said Lin Feng coldly. Mo Feng's face changed. He raised his hand, he wanted to kill himself, but Lin Feng appeared in front of him and his hand crashed onto his body. In a flash, his cultivation was crippled. You wish you had died, said Lin Feng coldly. Immediately after, Mo Feng had the impression he had no strength in his legs anymore. Then Lin Feng grabbed his feet and hung him upside down where the general and the 2 other corpses had been hung. Every member of the Duanren City troops will shoot an arrow at you, but you will not die. Your blood will flow until the final moment, said Lin Feng in an evil way. Mo Feng kept shaking. He was hanging by the feet and arrows kept crashing onto his body. Blood kept flowing. Lin Feng was more cruel than he was. He finally started shaking with fear. It seemed like he was finally releasing how cruel Lin Feng was and how important his offense had been. Yunfei Yang slowly turned around and looked at the general of Mou. Didn't I tell you not to attack anymore and not to do anything to Duanren City? Asked Yunfei Yang coldly. They all started shaking. They finally understood what had happened. Mo Feng had betrayed the country and had used them. He had used the national troops to betray the country. They knew that their prince was furious at that moment. Did I not tell you that Lu Lan was the general that I respected the most and that you had to respect him, that you couldn't harm him? Said Yunfei Yang again. The high-ranking militaries from Mou were shaking and walking backwards. They could feel that their prince's anger. They had thought that Yunfei Yang would just come and save them, but at that moment, he was blaming them. You forgot everything I said. You even joined hands with Lai Yun to attack Duanren City and caused a massive amount of blood to flow. You disrespected the general and even hung his body. You violated my orders should you be executed or not. Your Highness, we received Mo Feng's orders, please forgive us, said some people while kneeling down. The prince of Mo Jia, was as stubborn as a mountain. Nobody dared violate his orders. He was known for his firmness. If anyone violated his orders, they would die. Yun Fei Yang raised his head and sighed, I taught you everything you know, you are all here thanks to me and now you will die. Yun Fei Yang then started stepping on the ground violently and a terrifying physical strength oppressed those people. Blood started splashing, that group of high-ranking military officials then groaned together and collapsed. They were all dead. Lin Feng looked at Yun Fei Yang and turned his head around as said to Lu Fei, read those letters for the troops too please. Lu Fei looked at Lin Feng and nodded. She then did her best to read the letters as clearly and loudly as possible without crying. When Lu Fei finished reading the letter, no matter who, the troops of Mou or Duanren City, they were all moved. Mo Jia initially wanted to forget everything that had happened all those years but then Xueyu had plotted against them. The troops of Duanren City raised their heads towards the sky, they looked calm and solemn. Xueyu had killed their general and wanted them to die, how tragic. Help me to take care of them, said Lin Feng to Yun Fei Yang. Those troops couldn't stay in Xueyu, it was an enemy territory for them. Lin Feng wanted to hand over those troops to Mou. What a joke. No, said Yun Fei Yang while shaking his head. He then continued, those are your troops, you must be responsible for them. If Xueyu is against you, you must have them with you. I must hurry back to Xueyu, their ultimate goal isn't that army, but me, said Lin Feng while shaking his head and sighing. He wasn't strong enough to resist against everybody. Rock, shouted Yun Fei Yang extremely loudly. The earth and the sky started shaking violently. In the distance, it seemed like the sky was going to cave it. A gigantic silhouette appeared in the sky with enormous wings. It was slowly coming towards them. People had a feeling of oppression, it seemed like that thing was as big as the sky. Is that a beast? Wondered some people while staring at that silhouette in the sky. That silhouette was way too big, it seemed like it was 1 kilometer wide from where they were. Boom boom boom. People's hearts were pounding, their legs were weak. A terrifying hurricane started blowing, they were about to fall, many people actually fell down on their bottom. Finally, a terrifying beast appeared, its pupils looked ice cold. It was an ancient beast from primeval times. Its wings were a few kilometers wide when opened. It could blot out the sky and cover up in the earth all by itself. It looked like a gigantic castle. This is the totem of Mou. The rock. People from Mou were astonished, it was the rock, the emblem of their country. There were many rumors about it in Mou but people didn't know if it existed. Apparently, the rumors were true. Lin Feng was astonished too, he had never seen such a terrifying beast. It is the emblem of my country, Mou. Only in cases of extreme national danger can we use it. Since I came back from the great competition of Xueyu, I recognize the rock as the protector of our country and oldest ancestor. Now, I want to help you for the general, for the blood of the troops, and for you yourself. Yun Fei Yang sounded calm and solemn. He was speaking slowly. Lin Feng remained silent for a moment and nodded. Xueyu was so cruel, he didn't need to care about them anymore. Rock, sorry for getting you involved, said Yun Fei Yang while bowing in front of the rock. The rock shook its wings, it appeared above the ground again, they couldn't see the sky anymore. It looked like a gigantic celestial object. The rock then landed on the sky. 10,000 Qixia troops could easily stand on its back. Chapter 7:15, The Wedding Day. Lin Feng, take the Qixia troops and their horses with you. The rock can bring you back to Xueyu, said Yun Fei Yang. Lin Feng nodded and looked at the troops while saying, "Soldiers, come with me to the imperial city. We will fly on the back of the rock. If you don't want to, just leave alone, otherwise we will avenge the general." "Of course we want to come, how could we forget our general," said the Duanren troops. All of them led their horse onto the back of the rock. They all looked cold. "Lin Feng, master, what should we do with the corpses?" asked someone. Lin Feng made a step forwards. He looked at Lu Zhanglan's body and then at Lu Fei without saying anything. But then he spoke because Lu Fei didn't say anything. "What do you want to do?" asked Lin Feng to Lu Fei. She was Lu Zhanglan's daughter, she could, of course, decide. "I will bring them back and incinerate them between Duanren border and Duanren city, they were at home there. I will then spread their ashes in the valley. They will always pay attention to that road then," said Lu Fei, looking extremely sad. Her father had always protected Duanren city and Duanren border. Lin Feng had no objection and nodded, "All right, I will come back when I'm done and I will pray for their souls." "Don't worry about me, Lin Feng. You can leave," said Lu Fei, smiling. She had tears in her eyes. Lin Feng sighed. The beauty she had on her face back then had disappeared. She looked mature yet crushed. Lin Feng slightly nodded and caressed Lu Fei's head. It made her shiver. Lin Feng didn't dare spend too much time there though. He asked a few cultivators of the Xian Qi layer to stay there and carry the 3 corpses. Then he jumped onto his winged tiger and landed on the back of the rock. It seemed like that plot was also against him. Besides, his wedding was about to start, so he had to hurry and go back. Even though he didn't feel good, he had to act as if nothing had happened. It wasn't a good feeling. The rock spread its incredible wide wings. They then immediately rose up in the air. They were flying at an altitude of several dozens of thousands of meters. The rock was clapping its gigantic wings and creating hurricanes and whistling sounds all around them. The rock was carrying an army. People would have been astonished if they had seen that. A beast which could carry dozens of thousands of beasts. That was incredible. There were people all over its gigantic body. Yun Fei Yang looked at those people leave. His troops then moved back into the depths of Mou. Lu Fei and the few cultivators of the Xian Qi layer whom Lin Feng had left there went back to Duanren city with the corpses. They were going to carry out the funeral rite for those dead people. Very quickly, the sky became dark. Nothing was left at night in the gigantic mountain chain. Nothing except corpse Qi. It didn't know where to go. In the darkness of the night, there were 5 black fingers. There were subtle sounds spreading in the air too. Suddenly, a black silhouette appeared. That black silhouette was almost invisible in the darkness of the night. Apart from 2 dazzling eyes twinkling here and there, nobody would have been able to see anything. That black silhouette was in the sky and released a terrifying and evil physical strength. That person's black clothes moved and a terrifying vortex appeared. In a flash, the corpse Qi, which was still present in the mountain, was sucked in by the vortex. All that was left was some smoke. That mountain still had people a few hours before the corpse Qi had disappeared into the sky. The Qi of the people who had died unjustly satisfied that person. He was absorbing it like a glutton. "How pleasant," said that person in an evil way. That person looked particularly evil. Corpse Qi was really delicious to some. After a while, the integrity of the pure Qi disappeared into his body and he disappeared as if nothing had ever happened. The leaves were rustling in the lovesickness forest. Lin Hai and Yu Menghe raised their heads up to the sky and looked a bit worried. That day was Lin Feng's wedding day. "Little Feng hasn't come back yet. What can we do?" said Yu Menghe in a low voice. Everybody was looking forward to seeing the wedding ceremony. Everybody was ready, but Lin Feng had gone to Duanren city and hadn't come back. Lin Hai frowned. Those days, the city had been quite calm, especially on the side of the imperial palace. Lin Hai felt a bit nervous because of that. The princess was going to get married, so how come the palace had been so calm? Let's continue to prepare everything. Lin Feng will come back, said Yu Menghe, putting on her favorite Changxiam. She looked incredible beautiful. She had even put on some makeup on which made her look even more beautiful. Even if he doesn't come back today, Xi and Yi and I will still be Lin Feng's wives. Yu Menghe turned around and saw Meng Qing's magnificent smile. Even though her son was incredibly outstanding, he was also very lucky to have two beautiful wives. That was incredible and wonderful. Lin Hai, go and prepare everything, said Yu Menghe. Lin Hai nodded and went to the imperial palace. Even though the imperial palace was calm, the imperial city was still filled with activity and noise. People had invaded restaurants and hotels. There were also many people on the roads. There were people everywhere, especially on the road between the Lovesickness Forest and the imperial palace, as if people had been expecting something. Lin Feng's wedding was going to start. Lin Feng was the champion of the great competition of Shuiyu and the new ruler of Shuiyu. On top of that, he was going to get married with the princess of Shuiyu. They had to stay on that road. Lin Feng would come from there. Lin Feng is so strong and powerful. He won the great competition of Shuiyu and is now the ruler of Shuiyu. And he's going to get married with the beautiful princess. Lin Feng will definitely become a unique ruler and monarch of the country, said some people on the road. Lin Feng was their idol, they worshipped him. They had hoped that one day, they would become like Lin Feng. Coming from a small town or village didn't mean that they couldn't rise. Lin Feng had proved it to them. He had become the most dazzling young man of the country. You imagine? Lin Feng is the ruler of Shuiyu, the patriarch of the strongest sect of the country, the Yunhai sect. And his parents are two of the four most outstanding cultivators our country had 20 years ago. Besides, he had monstrous natural abilities. Shuiyu is already his. Nobody can surpass him. In a few years, he will have a terrifying strength, said someone else. At that moment, a young man in black clothes was drinking alcohol in a restaurant. That person could hear what people outside were saying as he interrupted. The Imperial City clan should first let him to do that. Will they allow Lin Feng to become the unique ruler of the country? Many people were surprised when they heard that person. People had never thought about those questions. Did the Imperial City clan agree with Lin Feng's abrupt rise? Chapter 7:16. Dark clouds in the sky. Dark clouds were rolling in the sky above Shuiyu. They were covering the entire country. Many people in the imperial city were raising their heads and looking at the dark clouds. What a gloomy qi. Progressively, rays of sunlight were disappearing, the atmosphere was losing its colors. Besides, with those clouds was also an extremely strong wind which contained an ice-cold qi. What a mysterious weather, thought the crowd. It seemed like Lin Feng's wedding date wasn't bringing him luck. He had chosen such a gloomy day. At that moment, the troops of the Yunhai sect which hadn't gone to Duanren City were there ready to welcome Lin Feng. There were also some ferocious wild beasts with them. When people saw them and heard the sound of the steps of that gigantic army, they moved aside on both sides of the road. On Lin Feng's wedding day, his army had to show up. He really deserved to be the ruler of Shuiyu. However, Lin Feng was missing from the picture. Who's that girl? She's so beautiful, thought the crowd while looking at a girl in Cheongsam. She was sitting in palanquin chair. Everyone was staring at her. How beautiful. Too beautiful. She looked pure and holy, like a goddess. However, she was wearing the clothes of a bride, which meant she was taken. Men but also women were looking at that incredibly beautiful woman and couldn't take their eyes off her, their hearts were pounding. That kind of beautiful woman made the world seem colorless. That kind of girl didn't belong to the mortal world, she belonged to the world of deities. By getting married, she was going to join the world of common women. Many people were dreaming of having her as a wife. If they could have her as a wife for one day, they would agree to die on the second. She must be the girl from the rumors, the one Lin Feng loves the most. She's even more beautiful than the princess. Lin Feng is the ruler of Shuiyu, but he can also be happy with his love situation, sighed the crowd. Their eyes couldn't move away from that beauty. Meng Qing raised her head and looked at the dark clouds. She stopped smiling for a second and then smiled again. She was Lin Feng's wife from that day on. She didn't care about the weather or the sun. She was happy with her situation. The crowd was welcoming her, following them. Step by step, people were following the others. However, Lin Feng was still absent. Many people were surprised. If Lin Feng didn't come, how would the wedding happen? The imperial palace was as calm as before. It was oppressive. The gloomy weather made the atmosphere look even scarier. There were guards at the gate of the imperial city, nothing else. There was nobody in the main fields and public squares of the city either. All the places of the city were extremely calm. Boom, boom, boom. It seemed like the ground was shaking and was going to break. In the distance, something was coming, and was breaking the oppressive silence which reigned over the city. However, the crowd in the city didn't care about it. The guards just gazed into the distance indifferently and then looked at their own things again. It seemed like they had seen nothing at all. Boom, boom, boom. The ground was shaking more and more intensely. In the distance, there was an army with a stone ape. It was 3 meters high and looked like a castle. Each of its steps made the ground shake. It was astonishing. It could easily crush several people with its feet. Behind the stone ape was an army which was extremely long. On both sides and behind there were people following them. However, their faces looked unsure when they arrived outside of the imperial palace. The weather was really horrible and cold. It seemed like something was about to happen. What they had in front of their eyes looked strange and scary. It was the princess wedding though, they had to be there. The atmosphere around the imperial palace looked extremely cold. Nobody was welcoming anyone, as if nobody knew what was happening, nobody that it was a special day. Finally, after some time, some sounds emerged in the atmosphere. It seemed like the atmosphere was resonating. Very quickly, in the palace several silhouettes appeared, and finally the people of the imperial palace could be seen. Those people were wearing dragon robes and looked extraordinary. They were wearing the same clothes Shi Huan and Shi Qiong used to wear. They looked majestic and imposing. It proved that those people had an extremely high social status. They were imperial snow dragon guards. They were all cultivators of the Xian Qi layer. Imperial snow dragon guards, thought the crowd when they saw those people. Lin Feng had risen in the country, he had defeated the high officials, he had killed Shi Huan and Shi Qiong. It wasn't a secret anymore. People in Shuiyu knew that there were some incredibly strong cultivators who were called the Imperial Snow Dragons of Shuiyu. However, why were they there to welcome the crowd? They were the most mysterious troops of the country. The huge gates of the Imperial Palace opened themselves and the guards knelt down in front of the Imperial Snow Dragon guards in an extremely respectful way. They didn't dare say anything. A group of people slowly came out. There were 4 people, 1 in the front and 3 in the back. They were all wearing dragon robes, but they were different from those other people. However, one had to pay attention to notice the difference. There were 9 groups of snow dragon guards and all of them had a leader wearing a silver badge. At that moment, the 3 people who had come out held golden badges. Those who had silver badges were officers like Shi Huan. Those who had golden badges were commanders. There were 3 commanders and in front of them, and there was a young man who looked extremely aggressive and violent. That young man was releasing the chi of a warlord. Crown Prince, Duan Wu Dao. The crowd was stupefied looking at the Crown Prince, Duan Wu Dao. If one was good to him, he was merciful, if one offended him, he would kill. Lin Feng had finished first at the great competition of Shuiyu and Duan Wu Dao had finished second. Boom boom boom. The ground broke and some long crevices appeared. The stone ape stopped and the crowd behind it as well. Slash slash slash. Some silhouettes flickered and some chong paos fluttered in the wind unceasingly. Everywhere, people kept arrived. There was an infinite number of people. Those people were wearing clothes of different colors, some were even wearing armor. After that crowd appeared, they immediately surrounded everybody else. What's going on? Some people were surprised. What was happening? That was supposed to be Lin Feng's wedding day. They had come to assist to the wedding. What was happening? They were suddenly being surrounded and there was a terrifying qi in the atmosphere. Does Xueyu want to attack Lin Feng? Thought the crowd while shaking. Was Duan Xinyi going to marry Lin Feng? What a huge joke. That was impossible. Duan Xinyi was the most beautiful girl in Xueyu. Duan Wudao had finished second at the great competition of Xueyu and Lin Feng first. On top of that, Lin Feng had become the ruler of Xueyu. He had the same status as the king. Could the imperial palace of Xueyu really accept such a thing? Chapter 717, The Great War. The king was a megalomaniac. Could he allow someone to be his equal in his own country? No matter what, even if Dragon Mountain had decided it, they couldn't allow Lin Feng to be as strong as the king. The king had told the entire country that Lin Feng was going to get married with Duan Xinyi because he wanted everybody to assist with their wedding. But actually, it seemed like he wanted to execute Lin Feng in front of everybody. Maybe he wanted to show everybody what it would be like to want too much power. However, the most surprising thing, in the crowd's eyes, was that nobody was reacting. It seemed like they hadn't anticipated that the situation would be like that. Yu Menghe didn't look surprised at all. Yu Menghe wasn't surprised and nobody else was surprised around her. She was just looking at those people releasing their qi. It seemed like a great war was about to start. What a terrifying army, thought the crowd. However, those people who were in the center were panic-stricken and started running around insanely. Such things had nothing to do with them, they had just come to assist to the wedding. They were guests. It seemed like nobody had planned such a situation. Now there were sharp arrows pointing at them. It seemed like they could die at any moment. All those who have nothing to do with this can piss off, said Duan Wudao extremely aggressively. Some silhouettes flickered and people disappeared far away in the distance. The imperial city was going to attack them? Lin Feng had made the Yunhai sect rise, he had destroyed the Yu clan and the Wanshou sect. Now the imperial city wanted to destroy the Yunhai sect. And the Lovesickness Forest? The Yunhai sect and the Lovesickness Forest had become too influential in the country, even for the imperial city. Destroying those two spheres of influence wouldn't be that easy, otherwise, Duan Wudao would have done it alone with his snow dragon guards. Yu Menghe slowly walked forwards and looked at Duan Wudao. She then said coldly, "You really have no integrity. You first accepted to let the princess get married with my son and now you refused and plot against him. You have no moral values. You don't even care about giving face to the princess." The imperial city didn't care about the princess, they were using her as a toy. You call yourselves kings, but if you were defeated, you would be considered as bandits. You're just a motley crowd. Lin Feng could marry the princess in your dreams only, but you dream too much, said Duan Wudao aggressively. He then raised his hand and made a sign meaning that the archers could shoot arrows. Roar! The stone ape roared violently and hit his chest with its gigantic hands. It then started running and the ground started shaking. The other beasts also started moving. The gigantic snake and all the others were moving at full speed. Release, said Duan Wudao. All the arrows then crossed the sky and moved towards the group of people of the Yunhai sect. Slash slash slash. The atmosphere was shaking. The stone ape was moving towards the arrows which crashed onto his body but nothing happened. In a few steps, the stone ape arrived in front of the group of attackers. Some horrible shrieks spread in the air and those who had just shot the arrows died. Roar! The stone ape then roared violently and terrifying whistling sounds made them flew away. Blood even splashed out of people's 7 apertures, nose, ears, eyes, mouth. The snake also arrived in front of the crowd, and after avoiding 2 arrows, it hit the crowd with its gigantic tail. A terrifying venom spread in the air and nobody could stop that venom. Only a few people of the Yunhai sect were killed by those arrows. Those archers weren't strong enough. However, Duan Wudao remained expressionless and calm. In a flash, the Imperial Snow Dragon Guards released a terrifying pure chi at the same time, then they all jumped towards Lin Feng's people. At the same time, behind them appeared some extremely strong cultivators. They were all cultivators of the Xian Qi layer and were terrifying. Where are those extremely strong cultivators from? Thought the crowd baffled. They had extremely powerful skills and techniques. The people of the Yunhai sect were ordinary people, they would be easy to kill. What a tragic moment. Go and fight against the beasts, said Duan Wudao. Then the 3 commanders of the Snow Dragon Guards flickered at the same time and they threw themselves at the beasts. The 3 commanders were all cultivators who had at least broken through to the 7th Xian Qi layer. The dark clouds were still blotting out the sky and covering up the earth. It was supposed to be Lin Feng and Duan Xian Ye's wedding. Now it was turning out to be a terrifying event. Murder and desolation had invaded the atmosphere. Lin Feng still hasn't arrived. What a tragedy for the Lovesickness Forest and the Yunhai sect, thought the crowd. The Imperial City clan was much stronger and had a monstrous amount of cultivators of the Xian Qi layer. The strongest cultivators of Shuiyu, the Snow Dragon Guards, were even attacking. The Yunhai sect and the Lovesickness Forest were going to disappear. When is Duan Renhuang coming? Asked Yu Menghe coldly to Duan Wudao. He's not needed to fight against you, said Duan Wudao indifferently. He then released a terrifying and brutal energy. Make Lin Feng come here for a battle, said Duan Wudao, whose battle energy was burning violently all around him. Last time, he had lost against Lin Feng and felt incredibly humiliated. You are a loser, you cannot fight against him. Duan Renhuang was the first one and it's been 20 years since. Even if Duan Renhuang doesn't come out, I can still defeat you, you have no geniuses, said Duan Wudao while releasing a terrifying chi. He was looking at those people fighting and said, everybody stop and move back. His terrifying voice rolled in the air and resonated in people's heads. Everybody immediately moved back. There was blood and corpses already where the people of the Yunhai sect and the Lovesickness were. Back then, people called you and your husband geniuses, now you are pieces of trash. Yu Menghe, I will kill you with my own hands and then kill your son Lin Feng, shouted Duan Wudao furiously. Sealed doors, appear. In the air, 8 sealed doors appeared. Duan Wudao could use the power of his spirit to oppress Yu Menghe. He needed to regain face and now he had the opportunity to do so. Roar. A celestial fang spirit appeared, Yu Menghe, like Duan Wudao, released her dragon spirit. She also had the 9 dragon spirit. Her spirit had 8 heads and looked hideous. You want to fight, all your people will die, said Duan Wudao. Doors, seal. The 8 doors then turned into beams of light as they moved towards Yu Menghe. Her 8 dragon heads then roared furiously and crashed onto the 8 doors while explosions sounded. The doors were oppressing all those heads and it seemed like they were going to be sealed. Duan Wudao made a step forwards and a terrifying warlord energy oppressed Yu Menghe. Warlord punch, shouted Duan Wudao furiously. His warlord fists then dashed to the skies. It seemed like Yu Menghe was too weak and was going to be crushed. Yu Menghe's hands were fluttering, it looked mysterious and fascinating. She looked fragile and sweet. At the same time, the warlord punches seemed like they couldn't break her fists. Such a vast chi is indestructible, die, shouted Duan Wudao furiously. Some terrifying whistling sounds spread in the air, those strident sounds painfully pierced through people's ears. A terrifying warlord chi was bombarding the atmosphere in Yu Menghe's direction. Duan Wudao's skills were extremely brutal and violent. Besides, he had joined the Jade Heaven imperial family and felt more powerful than ever. He despised everybody in the world. Chapter 718, Fury and Revenge. Duan Wudao is terrifying, thought the crowd when they saw his warlord punches. He had broken through to the 9th Xian Qi layer. With his sealed doors spirit and Shinggong skills, he had a terrifying power. However, he hadn't ranked first at the great competition of Shuiyu. Lin Feng had finished first. How strong was Lin Feng? Besides, why wasn't Lin Feng appearing at that moment? Lovesickness drunkenness, lovesickness punch, said Yu Menghe looking like an illusion in a dream. Her punches were bombarding the atmosphere, they gave people an impression of lovesickness, the surrounding people suddenly needed love. Those lovesickness punches even contained some intent, and as they could make the warlord punches melt. Love could make aggressiveness melt. The warlord punches were getting weaker and weaker and then disappeared. Love had invaded the entire atmosphere. Humph. Duan Wudao groaned coldly and jumped forwards while shouting furiously, "Warlord punch!" Some rumbling sounds spread in the air, terrifying punches invaded the atmosphere, residual energy turned into hurricanes that were killing people who were behind Yu Menghe. Duan Wudao didn't stop after his warlord punches, some sealed doors intent appeared and it seemed like it was going to seal Yu Menghe's body. Jade Sky Burial. Destruction, shouted Duan Wudao, and a gigantic hand appeared. It was pitch black and was moving towards Yu Menghe at full speed. It seemed like that hand could bury her. Some rumbling sounds were spreading in the air. That kind of skill contained intent, it seemed like it was preventing Yu Menghe from moving and wanted to bury her. Yu Menghe could sense how terrifying that attack was. That chi was monstrous. Behind Yu Menghe, a silhouette slowly appeared as a terrifying intent appeared and broke Duan Wudao's punch attack which was oppressing Yu Menghe. Then Duan Wudao's punch suddenly disappeared. Duan Wudao's face became even angrier. Immediately after, a terrifying physical strength crashed onto Duan Wudao's body and projected him backwards. When Duan Wudao saw that person, he was astonished. "Tian Qi layer, you're Lin Hai," said Duan Wudao coldly while looking at the man next to Yu Menghe. "Indeed," replied Lin Hai indifferently. The crowd was astonished, it was Lin Hai, one of the 4 geniuses from the country 20 years ago. He had broken through to the Tian Qi layer. How amazing! "Lin Hai," said a voice in the distance. "In the past I had sealed your body and expelled you from the imperial city. I wouldn't have thought that you would break through to the Tian Qi layer, but even now I can still seal your body once again." In the distance, a silhouette appeared. That person was wearing a golden crown and golden clothes. That person wasn't the king though, it was Duan Renhuang. "Duan Renhuang, just like in the past, you're as shameless as before," said Lin Hai coldly. "Humph," said Duan Renhuang. "It took you more than 10 years to break the sealed doors and you just broke to the Tian Qi layer, nothing more. You came to my imperial palace to see the wedding. Last time I sealed your body, now I will kill you." Indeed, Duan Renhuang had sealed Lin Hai's cultivation in the past. He had been unable to break free from the sealed doors for so many years, but in the end Lin Feng had slowly risen. He had practiced cultivation so hard, then Lin Feng had finished first at the great competition of Shuiyu. That had made Lin Hai feel so great. He was so proud of his son that his heart had enabled him to break free from the chains of the sealed doors, and then he had broken through to the Tian Qi layer. In a short time, Yu Menghe would also be able to break through to the Tian Qi layer. "Duan Renhuang, what about you? What makes you think you can criticize me?" asked Lin Hai coldly. He then continued slowly, "Back then, you, Menghe and Wu Qing and I were the 4 strongest cultivators of the country. We were also 4 best friends, like brothers. We were doing everything together. I still remember that day when we went to the 9-Dragon Mountain chain and killed some beasts and picked up some grass. You were like a brother, but then when you became stronger you started courting Menghe and wanted to kill us. Do you have a clear conscience? If you did have a clear conscience, you wouldn't be so weak now." Shut the hell up, shouted Duan Renhuang furiously. His voice made the entire atmosphere shake. The crowd was surprised. The four of them used to be best friends. What had happened 20 years before hadn't been transmitted properly to the later generations, and there were so many different rumors. Ha, you're still getting angry because of such things. We all forgot about what happened in the past. You're the only one who cannot get over it. Nobody would have thought that you would still think about it, said Lin Hai mockingly. Duan Renhuang looked cold and glum. He slowly rose up in the air and glanced at the crowd from above. He looked emotionless. Lin Hai, prepare to die, said Duan Renhuang while releasing some terrifying intent. His intent was also sealed door intent, but it was much stronger than that of Duan Wudao's. Of course, he had broken through to the Tian Qi layer. At that moment, the crowd was astonished and couldn't move. They had the impression that they couldn't breathe anymore. Duan Renhuang then released the integrity of his sealed door energy. Lin Hai jumped forwards and rose up in the air while releasing a terrifying qi. Two hurricanes collided and merged. Seal, shouted Duan Renhuang furiously. A terrifying strength bombarded the atmosphere. Lin Hai's body was covered by it. The sealed door's intent surrounded his entire body. There was a huge difference between them. Yu Menghe rose up in the air and released some energies which moved towards Duan Renhuang. Duan Renhuang glanced at her and shouted coldly, in the past, you made a mistake and now you are as dull and stupid as before. You will die together now. A terrifying warlord Qi emerged in the air and a gigantic light bombarded them both. Both of them were projected backwards, they even collapsed on the ground. Both of them together couldn't rival with Duan Renhuang. CRR. A terrifying sword Qi invaded the atmosphere from a distance and moved towards Duan Renhuang. A moment before it was extremely far away, but now it was extremely close. Die with them too, shouted Duan Renhuang while bombarding the sword energy with a terrifying punch. In a flash, the sword Qi disappeared without leaving trace. The one who had used the sword was also punched and had crashed onto the ground next to Yu Menghe and Lin Hai. Cough cough. Lin Hai was coughing blood. He looked at the person who had just arrived, smiled wryly and said, you don't need to. We have been separated for so many years and now we are all reunited, said Zhu Guwuqing. He usually looked expressionless, but at that moment he had a smile on his face. Very good, I also gave you a chance in the past, Zhu Guwuqing. Now you are acting as my enemy. You will die with them, said Duan Renhuang in a disdainful way. Back then, they used to be best friends and now Duan Renhuang was fighting against them. Now, he wanted to kill the three of them. Lin Hai and the two others glanced at each other and smiled. Wu Qing, I got Menghe in the past, I hope you're not angry. I wouldn't have protected your son if I had blamed you, said Zhu Guwuqing while shaking his head. Yu Menghe had a resplendent smile on her face, any man would have fallen in love with her. I wouldn't have thought that we would die in his hands though, said Yu Menghe, standing up. She turned her head, looked at Meng Qing and said, Meng Qing, you must leave. Everybody, you must escape from Shuiyu. Lin Hai and Zhu Guwuqing looked at Yu Menghe, they understood what she meant. They were going to die. Even if they were going to die, they had to fight. They would die as heroes to keep their honor. Unfortunately, so many people were involved. Even Meng Qing and Lin Feng, alright, if you want to die, I will kill you, said Duan Renhuang releasing a terrifying deadly energy. He looked cold. His deadly energy was terrifying, the crowd couldn't breathe anymore. Would the problems which had started 20 years before between the four most outstanding people of Shuiyu stop now? Chapter 719, Deadly Meeting. Duan Renhuang was releasing a terrifying amount of energies. There were his three friends and they were surrounded by deadly energies, but remained brave and proud. People admired and respected them. Even though strong cultivators in the continent of the Nine Clouds were respected more than the others, people also had compassion. Especially when good people were maltreated by evil people, Duan Ren Huang was detestable. Initially, they were all brothers and sisters, best friends, and now he wanted to kill them. He was detestable. People admired Lin Hai and the two others, they were incredible and brave. Even though they were going to die, they wanted to die as glorious heroes. The threat of death was approaching, Duan Ren Huang's energies were getting more and more intense. The three cultivators on the ground had their heads raised and were looking at him. Then they rose up in the air, unafraid of death. Roar, a terrifying roaring sound spread in the air as the ground broke apart. The stone ape also turned into a beam of light and threw itself at Duan Ren Huang like a mountain. Die, shouted Duan Ren Huang furiously. A sealed door illusions appeared, they contained some terrifying intent and their energy was terribly oppressive. Rumbling sounds spread in the air as the energies collided with the stone ape, it seemed like a mountain had been crushed. Die, shouted Lin Hai furiously. Several terrifying punches filled with ice-cold energies spread in the air at the same time as Wu Qing's sword energies, but they didn't manage to destroy the sealed doors. They were projected backwards when their energies collided against the sealed door's energies. Especially Yu Menghe, she was particularly affected by the attack and had brutally crashed onto the ground. Those sealed doors were terrifying even though Lin Hai had broken through to the Tian Qi layer. Lin Hai felt like he had been crushed by the energies as blood splashed, he was also crushed onto the ground. Die, said Duan Ren Huang looking as cruel as before. Meng Qing stood up, however a voice spread in the air and it came from the distance. No, said that voice in the distance. The crowd saw a beautiful woman in a Chong Sam in the distance, it was Princess Duan Xianyi. Duan Xianyi's hair was messy and she looked panic-stricken, what was happening? Wasn't she getting married now? What was happening? The guests were all running around wildly, the princess was turning her head and saw them. Her father and her brother looked ice-cold, she was terrified. No. Duan Xianyi couldn't believe what was happening. Yu Menghe and the others were severely injured and they were lying on the ground. She had started crying when she saw them. I am so sorry, I didn't know anything like this would happen, said Duan Xianyi when she saw that Yu Menghe and the others were bleeding. Duan Xianyi suddenly felt guilty. Yu Menghe smiled and touched Duan Xianyi's hair. She said in a warm and gentle way, you silly girl, who could blame you? It has nothing to do with you. But it's because of me, said Duan Xianyi, she felt extremely guilty. She turned her head and looked at the king and her brother, she asked, why did you lie to me? Why did you use me? Duan Wuya and the king looked at her but remained silent. After a moment, Duan Wuya said, you shouldn't have come. Indeed, I shouldn't have come, but then I learnt what was happening. Should I have stayed away to regret it my entire life? Shouted Duan Xianyi. Everything was fake, you're the one who gave me the poison last time. Only you could have done such a thing, I couldn't believe it in the past but now I know that it's you. You've always been plotting against Lin Feng, why? The crowd sighed when they heard Duan Xianyi, everything had been a plot. Working for the royal government was that way. Everything was about plotting against others in secret. Unfortunately, that pure, innocent and beautiful girl had been at the center of the plot. Nobody replied to Duan Xianyi, her voice was just resonating in the air for a few seconds. The crowd was looking at her beautiful, pure and hopeless-looking face. Duan Xianyi stood up, she was in front of Yu Menghe and the others. She looked at the Duan Ren Huang, if you want to kill someone, then kill me first. Duan Ren Huang looked at Duan Xianyi, he looked like he didn't care about her at all. He only cared about himself and Duan Wu Dao. He even cared about Yu Menghe and Lin Hai more than Duan Xianyi. However, Duan Ren Huang shouted, you are a member of my family, I don't want to kill you so move away. I won't, if you want to kill them, kill me first, said Duan Xianyi, still obstructing the way while gnashing her teeth. She looked like a determined young girl. Xianyi, don't worry, move away. This has nothing to do with you, said Yu Menghe. That little girl was so stupid. Duan Xinyi kept shaking her head, she wasn't going to move away. Everything was happening because of her, she would regret her entire life if they died and she lived. You want to die, so I will help you, said Duan Renhuang while releasing some deadly energies. The king and Duan Wuye remained silent, they were staring at the scene. Duan Xinyi was just a toy for them. Bzzz. The sound of a zither spread in the air. Immediately after, a silhouette appeared in the crowd, moved out, and sat down cross-legged in the air. Some pure qi became a cloud and that person had a zither on his lap. A terrifying killer qi appeared and was emerging out of the zither, it was fluttering and moving towards Duan Renhuang. Someone else dares face Duan Renhuang, how reckless, thought the crowd. That person was a calm and serene-looking man. His hands were floating over the strings of the zither. That person didn't even look at Duan Renhuang. Someone else wants to die, said Duan Renhuang coldly. Duan Xinyi was scared, she whispered, Teacher, that man was Yan Yupingsheng. Yan Yupingsheng raised his head and looked at Duan Xinyi, he looked calm and serene, he even smiled. Teacher, why, said Duan Xinyi crying. She knew that Yan Yupingsheng couldn't rival Duan Renhuang, so he was planning to die. Xinyi, I've had only 3 students in my entire life, you, Duan Wuye and Wen Ao Shui. Lin Feng doesn't count, maybe only for half. One of my students had become cruel and evil, using his own sister as a toy. He wouldn't even hesitate to kill her, then that same sister is also one of my students and the wife of my half-student. How could I, Yan Yupingsheng, not protect you? Yan Yupingsheng kept playing the zither as an infinity of deadly energies were emerging out of it and moving towards Duan Renhuang. However, that energy wasn't injuring him at all. Amongst my students, you are the purest and the most innocent. Wen Ao Shui is also extremely smart, Duan Wuye is evil and likes manipulating people more than anything. The one that makes me the most satisfied is Lin Feng, but he only counts as a half-student. Maybe he isn't as perfect as Wen Ao Shui, but his natural abilities, his love and affection for his loved ones, his ardor, all of those things make me satisfied about Lin Feng. I consider that you, Wen Ao Shui and Lin Feng are my only real students. Duan Wuye is the one I helped the most and the one who wants to betray you today. He doesn't even want to help you and doesn't care about you dying, said Yan Yupingsheng. He continued playing the zither while talking. The energies had already enveloped his entire body. Duan Renhuang groaned coldly and a terrifying intent crashed onto the zither which stopped moving. Duan Renhuang then jumped forwards and roared furiously. A terrifyingly pure killer qi then moved towards Yan Yupingsheng and in a flash, Yan Yupingsheng was crushed by the energy. And the melody of the zither stopped. The music stopped and Yan Yupingsheng died. Teacher, whispered Duan Xinyi. When she saw Yan Yupingsheng disappear from the sky, she burst into tears. Her teacher had died, his music would never again play in Shuiyu, ever again. Chapter 720, Ghosts of Shuiyu, Arrggh. The stone ape's eyes were bloodshot as he attacked the ground with its legs. Its eyes seemed to be tearing up. The gigantic animal turned around and looked at Duan Xinyi, Lin Hai, and Yu Menghe. The fact that the stone ape looked extremely sad confused Yu Menghe. Little Feng, whispered Yu Menghe. That stone ape was Lin Feng's, Yu Menghe had almost forgotten about it. Perhaps Lin Feng already knew about everything that was happening. Maybe he could see everything clearly. Through the eyes of the stone ape. Don't come, said Yu Meng to the stone ape while shaking her head. However, the stone ape slowly turned its head and roared again. It looked like a mountain soaring to the skies. You are extremely solid and robust, against all expectations you haven't died yet, said Duan Renhuang coldly. A hand then appeared in the air and crashed onto the ape's body. The gigantic ape fell down and a gigantic hole appeared. Behind the stone ape appeared the colossal snake. It didn't fear death either as it rose up in the air. Huh! Duan Huang was surprised as another gigantic hand crashed out of his body and the snake whistled in pain. Are the beasts trying to waste time? So many beasts were coming one after the other, it seemed like they were all trying to waste time. Wasting time. The crowd was surprised. Why would the beasts be trying to waste time? Was Lin Feng about to come back? Indeed, Lin Feng would probably arrive soon. He probably wanted those beasts to waste some time. Useless. Die together, said Duan Huang, shaking his head. Evil lights were flashing in his eyes. He looked like a violent murderer, wanting all those people and beasts to die. Stop, said a voice coldly. The crowd turned around and saw a beautiful and proud-looking woman in a magnificent Chong Sam looking pure and holy. She was walking so slowly. Meng Qing was walking slowly in her beautiful ceremonial Chong Sam as she released an ice-cold chi. Meng Qing arrived next to Duan Xinyi and smiled resplendently. She looked so pure and holy. Yu Meng he shook her head unceasingly and whispered, Meng Qing, don't, you must leave. Meng Qing smiled back. She looked extremely beautiful. She gently shook her head and said, Yu Meng he, how could I leave? Lin Feng cares about you and them more than anything in the world. I am his wife now. If I left, Lin Feng would hate me forever. Meng Qing, you must understand that Lin Feng loves you more than anybody else here, said Yu Meng he. She didn't want Meng Qing to die. Meng Qing had to leave. I will not leave. If you all died, Lin Feng would be crushed forever. I am happy that I could become Lin Feng's wife today, without regrets, without remorse, without sadness. I will stay here today, said Meng Qing. She looked like a little sunshine. She then walked forwards, very slowly. She looked ice-cold and hopeless. She looked at the gloomy sky. The wind was cold and desolate. Her beautiful Chong Sam was fluttering in the wind. However, that beautiful woman couldn't make the gloomy atmosphere look any happier. The earth and sky were getting colder and colder, even more gloomy. Some snowflakes started falling. Some pure-looking snowflakes began falling heavily. In just a short time, people were covered with a layer of snow. They were feeling ice-cold and some people were even shivering. How cold! However, people saw that pure and innocent-looking woman walking forwards, step by step. What a beautiful woman! That gorgeous woman was an ice and snow goddess. She rose up in the air just above the ground. Her long Chong Sam was hanging above the ground too. Gradually, she was covered with snow and looked like an authentic snow deity. Meng Qing, thought the crowd watching her. Yu Meng he was astonished and started crying. Lin Feng was so lucky to have such a wonderful life. He really couldn't have any regret in this life. Huh? Duan Huang was surprised when he saw Meng Qing and he frowned. That girl looked stunning. She was even more beautiful than Yu Meng he in the past. How come Lin Hai's son was lucky with women? Duan Huang felt even more jealous and furious. Besides, that girl's chi was incredible. White snow covered Meng Qing's entire body, to the extent that her hair turned completely white. She had transformed into a snow goddess. She rose up in the air and ice covered the earth. It seemed like the entire world was going to freeze. 5th, 7th, 8th. Xian Qi layer. 9th Xian Qi layer. Tian Qi layer. Everybody was absolutely astonished, stunned, stupefied. The bride, that holy and pure-looking woman, was releasing an incredible ice which had the strength of the Tian Qi layer. She had broken through to the Tian Qi layer, just like Duan Huang. She has the strength of the Tian Qi layer. Everybody was astonished. What was happening? Besides, it seemed like her strength was still increasing. She was a lot stronger than Lin Hai, who also had the strength of the Tian Qi layer. She seemed to be as strong as Duan Huang. How astonishing! Nobody dared believe it, it seemed too incredible. Duan Ren Huang was astonished too. He couldn't believe his eyes as stared at Meng Qing. He had thought that Lin Hai was the only cultivator of the Tian Qi layer there. And on top of that, it was Lin Feng's wife. Die! Shouted Duan Ren Huang furiously. A terrifyingly brutal energy spread in the air. She had broken through to the Tian Qi layer, so what? He would still kill her, just like everybody else. Warlord punches. Some rumbling sounds spread in the air. Those punches seemed like they could annihilate everything. They launched out at Meng Qing. Those punches were infinitely more powerful than those from Duan Wu Dao. The snowflakes condensed together and turned into a piercingly cold ice. They then turned into a snow vortex and froze the punches. Those terrifying punches just fell apart afterwards. Duan Ren Huang was astonished but then looked calm and serene again. He jumped forwards and threw himself at Meng Qing. He released the terrifying strength of the sealed doors. He wanted to seal Meng Qing's body. The snowflakes kept falling down from the sky. She looked like a snow goddess in her ice world. Everybody was covered with a layer of snow. The snowflakes kept floating and dancing gracefully in the wind. There was ice intent in that snow. One couldn't see her beautiful silhouette clearly anymore, but the sealed door's intent seemed like it couldn't affect her. Die! Shouted Meng Qing coldly. Then her ice intent attacked Duan Ren Huang. That coldness was piercingly cold. It seemed like Duan Ren Huang was going to freeze. That ice seemed like it could freeze the entire world. He couldn't fight for long in that atmosphere filled with ice intent, otherwise he would lose. Destruction, said Duan Ren Huang while trying to destroy the ice vortex. He released even more sealed doors qi. In the atmosphere 8 sealed doors now appeared. However, the energy in those doors was even stronger than in his previous attacks. Seal! Shouted Duan Ren Huang furiously. The monstrous sealed doors seemed like they could seal the world. They turned into beams of light as they shot out towards Meng Qing. Snow, said Meng Qing in a low voice. Snow kept falling as a thick layer of snow surrounded her entire body. The sealed doors bombarded that layer of snow, and then Meng Qing disappeared. Die! A massive amount of snow appeared and surrounded Duan Ren Huang's body. A beautiful and graceful hand appeared out of the air and launched towards him. That hand contained a terrifying ice qi. Duan Ren Huang groaned coldly as he used his warlord punch again, but when he raised his hand some ice and snow penetrated into his hand and disappeared into it. A terrifying ice energy appeared from Duan Ren Huang's back too. The crowd saw Duan Ren Huang surrounded by a terrifying white snow. It seemed like that white snow contained the energy of an ice goddess. Boom! A terrifying ice energy crashed onto Duan Ren Huang's body. He was astonished and the crowd was as well. Lin Feng's wife looked like an ice goddess. She was even stronger than Duan Ren Huang. Chapter 721, Shui Ling Long. The crowd couldn't believe their eyes. Lin Feng's wife looked like a snow goddess with strength greater than Duan Ren Huang. Ice crashed onto Duan Ren Huang's body and almost entirely froze him. Get lost, shouted Duan Ren Huang furiously. Several terrifying warlord punches launched out. Meng Qing moved her hand though and then ice penetrated his body. Duan Ren Huang was projected a few hundred meters away. Cough cough. Duan Ren Huang coughed. He was still covered by ice and snow from head to foot. A moment before, the ice had penetrated into his body and he had almost froze to death. Snow was still falling unceasingly. Without realizing it, people had become snowmen already. How cold, said one person shivering violently. He had been watching the battle for a while and had just realized that it was snowing. Meng Qing's snowflakes became even more powerful. She then jumped again and landed in a massive ball of ice and snow in front of Duan Ren Huang. There was no warlord punch, there was only a massive amount of ice qi. Kill her together, shouted Duan Ren Huang. Out of the imperial palace suddenly emerged a terrifying energy which moved towards Meng Qing. Some people appeared that weren't weaker than Duanren Huang. All of them are cultivators of the Tian Qi layer, thought the crowd astonished. They were all cultivators of the Tian Qi layer. Meng Qing was in danger. All those people were of the Tian Qi layer and they were releasing a terrifying energy that threatened Meng Qing. Duanren Huang, you're so shameless, shouted Yu Meng He furiously. Her face was red and she was enraged. Humph, groaned Duan Wu Dao coldly. He began moving towards Yu Meng He as he said, today, you will all die. Ya! Another sound emerged in the air and in front of Yu Meng He appeared a silhouette. That person had white hair. He took the punch, causing him to stumble backwards, even closer to Yu Meng He. Yu Meng He looked at that old man, she couldn't believe it. Her mouth was slightly open, but she didn't say anything. She was speechless. Finally, he had arrived. Father. Yu Qing Shan turned his head around and smiled at Yu Meng He. This old man's face looked sad and desolate. Little He, I finally heard you call me father. Everything that happened in the past was my fault. Duanren Huang is no match for you, you deserve much better, said Yu Qing Shan. No matter how strong anyone was, Yu Qing Shan loved his daughter the most, Yu Meng He. Father, leave, all of this has nothing to do with you, said Yu Meng He smiling. Her father had just admitted that everything was his fault, could she continue hating her father? No, he was her father, they shared the same blood. Could an old man like me watch as his daughter dies in front of him, said Yu Qing Shan while smiling wryly. Yu Meng He also smiled wryly. If you want to die, you should die together then, said Duan Wu Dao, using his warlord punches to attack Yu Qing Shan. In the air were 4 cultivators of the Tian Qi layer surrounding Meng Qing, her ice energies were being oppressed. Those 4 cultivators of the Tian Qi layer were Duanren Huang, De Shu Kong, Yu Mo's teacher and someone from Jade Heaven. I, Yu Tian Huang, want that girl, said the strong cultivator from Jade Heaven. In a flash, the 3 others nodded as they understood what he meant. Duanren Huang released some sealed doors in tent. 8 doors appeared around her to seal her cultivation. That holy and pure woman looked as cold as before. She looked like a goddess from ancient ages. Meng Qing raised her head and smiled in a terrifyingly strange way. It seemed like something had appeared in her head. Some strange-looking ice things fell from the sky. They were extremely cold, colder than anything which had appeared until now. The temperature continued plummeting. Yu Meng He was shivering as she raised her head and looked at that woman who was an ice goddess. She started crying again. Meng Qing. Ah! A terrifying shout spread in the air, it seemed like the universe could freeze. Meng Qing's beautiful hair was fluttering in the wind. The strong cultivators of the Tian Qi layer who were surrounding her were scared, their facial expressions changed drastically. How cold! It was terrifying. A ferocious wild beast appeared from Meng Qing's back. It was a beautiful ferocious wild beast, it had snowy white fur. It had beautiful eyes too, it looked like a fox but it was much more beautiful than any ordinary fox. That's a fairy fox, whispered the crowd. The cultivator of Jade Heaven was astonished. So that's how it was. That pure and holy-looking girl was surprisingly a fairy fox. Shui Ling Long. He would have never thought that there could be a celestial beast in Shuiyu, he had to capture it. Die, shouted Meng Qing furiously. She then dived into snow again and disappeared. But then immediately reappeared in front of Duanren Huang again. Shui Ling Long, the master of foxes, the ice goddess. Duanren Huang wanted to move back but he couldn't. The terrifying ice invaded his body and several explosions sounded. His body was projected away in the air. He was covered by ice and snow from head to foot yet again. Very good, Shui Long Ling appeared, said a voice in the imperial palace. A silhouette had appeared, that person was bathing in a terrifying qi. The crowd started shaking violently, that person's qi made them suffocate. It was really too scary. Shui Long Ling, the most beautiful beast who has the shape of a human being. I wouldn't have thought that you would appear in such a tiny country as Shuiyu, said that extremely strong cultivator. A gigantic hand then appeared in the sky and fell in Meng Qing's direction. Those who were initially surrounding Meng Qing moved away. Meng Qing had jumped into the snow, but the terrifying and gigantic hand had already invaded the entire atmosphere. Meng Qing was hit and got buried into the ground. Roarar. The beasts in the surroundings were roaring violently. Meng Qing crawled out of the hole with fresh blood on her beautiful Chong Sam. Her body then merged together with Shui Ling Long. She raised her head and her eyes looked extremely beautiful. Those were really Meng Qing's eyes. Meng Qing. Meng Qing. Duan Xinyi and Yu Meng He yelled together when they saw Meng Qing turn into Shui Ling Long roar. Meng Qing rose up in the air as another terrifying punch attack launched out at Meng Qing. She was launched back onto the ground, her fur was covered with blood. Shui Ling Long still looked like a celestial being, like Meng Qing. The Shui Ling Long illusion hadn't disappeared yet. Shui Ling Long, you shouldn't be in Shuiyu. I want to bring you to Jade Heaven, I will help you become a human being again, said the strong cultivator from Jade Heaven to Meng Qing. However, Meng Qing looked as cold as before. Meng Qing was getting ready to move up in the sky again. No, shouted a familiar voice in the horizon. Meng Qing was surprised and her bestial body shook. It seemed like she was scared. Bzzzzz. Bzzzzz. The earth and sky were shaking, there was a hurricane approaching. People turned around and gazed into the distance with astonishment. There was a gigantic beast in the sky and it was flying with incredible speed. Besides, it had an army of people on its back. Its wings looked like castles. On that beast was a person, that person flew off the back of the beast. That person's eyes revealed terror, but you could tell he was not resigned to give up. Lin Feng had come back. Chapter 722, Like a Demon, what a gigantic, ferocious, wild beast. The crowd was staring at that gigantic beast, it looked like a monumental castle. It was blotting out the sky and covering up the earth. There were dozens of thousands of people on it, what a terrifying beast. Bzzzzz. Bzzzzz. Buzzing sounds were mixing with the sound of the wind. The cultivators of the Tian Qi layer were looking at that beast, it was a rock from ancient ages. How astonishing! The beasts which were on the ground couldn't compete with that kind of beast. Humph, you finally arrived, said Duan Wu Dao, who was still fighting against Yu Qingshan. Duan Wu Dao then immediately rose higher up in the air. Get lost, shouted Lin Feng furiously, making people shiver. His terrifying voice turned into sword energy and left a sword mark in the sky. It then moved towards Duan Wu Dao, who in turn shivered. His silhouette immediately flickered as he moved aside. Lin Feng ignored Duan Wu Dao, at that moment, he was only looking at the illusion. Mkich, that beast which had the eyes of a celestial being moaned when it saw Lin Feng. Shui Ling Long was crying. She turned around and moved away, she didn't dare look at Lin Feng. Meng Qing, shouted Lin Feng, which made Shui Ling Long turn around. Meng Qing, said Lin Feng while jumping towards Meng Qing. He had stretched out his hand. Lin Feng tried to hug Shui Ling Long, who still looked pure and holy. Shui Ling Long was crying and shaking. Meng Qing hadn't disappeared, she was staring at Lin Feng. Lin Feng was also looking at that silhouette, he stretched his hand but couldn't touch her. Lin Feng, said a voice which resonated in Lin Feng's ears. It was a warm and gentle voice which made Lin Feng's heart melt. Meng Qing could still speak. Sorry Lin Feng, I always lied to you. I'm actually a beast, said the illusion. Some tears were flowing out of her eyes. The beast moved into Lin Feng's arms, even though it was just an illusion, it still wanted to be there. I know, I always knew. Meng Qing's voice was making Lin Feng's heart melt. Lin Feng was able to control so many incredible beasts, but in front of Meng Qing, beast of Tian Qi layer, what could he do? He was powerless. He could only watch as those cultivators of the Tian Qi layer attack her. Lin Feng had always known that Meng Qing was a beast, she was so pure and holy. How could she have lived in the depths of the Black Wind Mountain where no beast ever attacked her? Back when he had seen the Tian-level cat in the Nine Dragons mountain chain, he had understood that Meng Qing was a beast and that she was undergoing the human transformation process. That was why she didn't have the strength of the Tian Qi layer as a human being. Her strength was restricted during the transformation process, just like the cat back then. However, during that crucial period, Lin Feng had defeated the cat. However, because of Lin Feng, Meng Qing had used her strength of the Xian Qi layer a few times to protect him. She had taken huge risks back then. And she had suffered a lot because of the ice corroding her body. Lin Feng, do you remember how I liked to hear you tell me the story of the white fox? Can you tell me that story again? Asked Meng Qing when she heard Lin Feng say that he knew that she was a beast. The illusion was smiling, she looked warm, gentle and soft. She loved to hear Lin Feng tell her the story of the white fox. She loved to hear stories that didn't exist in that world. I am a 1,000-year-old fox, I have been a lonely fox for 1,000 years, so who could love me? I love you unconditionally, you are bewitching, I could study cultivation with you forever. Leaving you would be the worst thing in the world. Getting married with you is the most beautiful thing in the world, I could dance with you forever, I am you. Lin Feng was chanting that poem slowly. But Meng Qing was becoming less and less real. However, that disappearing illusion looked as beautiful as before and she still had a resplendent smile on her face. Who could put an end to her loneliness? Who could make her so happy? Who could make the ice in her heart melt? Who could make her cry and smile at the same time because of love? Who accepted to sacrifice himself for her without regret? For whom was she willing to abandon everything? For whom was she willing to give her best to make him happy? For whom was she willing to suffer without repenting it? Tears started flowing on Lin Feng's cheeks, they were falling down on Meng Qing's illusion. Finally, Meng Qing's illusion disappeared, but Lin Feng kept hugging that lonely fox as if he hadn't noticed it. Xue Ling Long was shivering with cold. Yu Meng he walked towards Meng Qing and caressed her white fur while crying. Lin Feng, Meng Qing is not like the other beasts, she is a celestial beast. Xue Ling Long can have the body of a human being. If she hadn't had sex with you she would have become a real person, but because she accepted to do so, she gave you her pure qi and postponed the transformation process. That's what's happening now, said Yu Meng he slowly. Xue Ling Long raised her head and looked at Lin Feng, she was shivering with cold but Lin Feng kept hugging her tightly. The dark clouds were still in the sky, wind was brushing away on Lin Feng's skin but it seemed like he felt nothing. There was only an endless coldness in his heart. Lin Feng's body was gradually surrounded by a black layer. That black layer was becoming denser and thicker. Yu Meng he looked at that darkness and started shivering, Lin Feng's body was getting darker and darker. Huh! When the crowd heard Lin Feng's chant, they were captivated by him, but then they watched as his body was being enveloped by darkness, pitch black. People's hearts started pounding. Chapter 723, Strong Cultivators Fighting. The dark clouds in the sky were making the atmosphere look even colder. Lin Feng slowly stood up and that pitch-black demon slowly rose up in the air. His black Chang Pao was fluttering in the wind, his entire body was surrounded by evil energies which were bone-piercingly cold. People's souls were trembling. Duan Wudao watched as Lin Feng rose up in the air. However, Duan Wudao moved back, he was surprisingly scared. Lin Feng's pitch-black eyes glanced at Duan Wudao darkly. Lin Feng despised him. Duan Wudao was shaking, his self-confidence was breaking apart. He initially wanted to kill Lin Feng and regain his prestige, but now, against all expectations, he was moving back. The black color was insanely rolling in the atmosphere and emitting whistling sounds. Lin Feng, with the power of his heart, made the blackness roll in the air like a hurricane. The hurricane made his Chang Pao flutter and his long hair rise up in the air. How terrifying, thought the crowd watching Lin Feng turn into a demon. He was too scary. That handsome young man was turning into a demon with an ice-cold, pitch-black chi. The cultivators of the Tian Chi layer were all astonished watching Lin Feng. That guy was turning into a demon, but it was useless in front of them. He couldn't do anything and they could kill him as they wished. Lin Feng was about to die. "Kill him," said the cultivator from Jade Heaven indifferently. Lin Feng was staring at him and the other cultivators of the Tian Chi layer coldly. Those cultivators of the Tian Chi layer slowly moved towards him, they wanted to kill him. They had to hurry because Lin Feng was already threatening them. "Stop!" shouted someone furiously from above. In the air, some thunders appeared and crossed some of the dark clouds. What a strong energy! Lin Feng raised his head and saw Lei Mang, however, he still looked emotionless. Lin Feng didn't care about anyone else apart from his closest friends and relatives. Other people were insignificant for him. He had to sort out his issues with blood. Apart from Lei Mang, other people appeared in the distance, silhouettes were flickering. They were all extremely strong and powerful and had all broken through to the Tian Chi layer. People from Shandong had surrounded Lin Feng to protect him. People were stupefied, there were extremely strong cultivators who wanted to protect Lin Feng but they had never seen those people. "Yun Fei Yang, bring people and help me exterminate the imperial family of Shuiyu," said Lin Feng while looking at the gigantic rock in the sky. People's hearts were pounding even more violently. Lin Feng wanted to exterminate the imperial family of Shuiyu. Yun Fei Yang nodding without saying anything. The rock started clapping its wings creating a hurricane, people could barely stand fast on their feet. The crowd watched as the rock penetrate into the imperial palace and land on it. Some rumbling sounds spread in the air. Horses started galloping making the ground vibrate. There were no incredible sounds, there was only the sounds of the hoofs clacking on the ground. There was a gloomy chi in the atmosphere, when really furious words were useless, silence was a real symbol of fury. A few dozens of thousands of armored horses were furious and releasing a terrifying energy. Their hearts were filled with murder. Those dozens of thousands of armored horses were surrounded by terrifying deadly energies. They wanted to exterminate the imperial family of Shuiyu. The people from the imperial family were astonished, they were pulling long faces. The elite troops of the imperial city were outside. No matter how strong the imperial family was, stopping an army of a few dozens of thousands of troops was difficult. It might not even be possible. "Kill them," said the strong cultivator from Jade Heaven, he still sounded indifferent. He, himself had jumped forwards and immediately arrived in front of Lei Mang. He then used a colossal punch attack filled with terrifying energy. It seemed like the entire city was going to collapse under that punch. Lei Mang was furious as the entire atmosphere was filled with thunders which shot out at that punch. The ground and the air were vibrating violently. The other cultivators of the Tian Chi layer were also fighting. The colors of the sky and the earth were changing gradually. Some terrifying chi was whistling in the air. Duan Wudao also looked glum. Shandong knew that he wanted to kill Lin Feng so they sent some extremely strong cultivators to protect him. Duan Wudao was looking at Lin Feng whose face was filled with murder, but he didn't chase him. Lin Feng didn't move either. He was just standing in the sky, his ice-cold pupils looked like they despised the entire world. At that moment, Lin Feng looked calm and cold at the same time, he looked even scarier. Duan Wuya was standing on the ground with his father. They were looking at those people in the sky. They were both smiling indifferently, in a particularly strange way. Shandong had so many strong cultivators, they obviously knew that. At that moment, there were murky heavens over a dark earth. The region was in a state of chaos and darkness. They might all die. Kill them, said Duan Wudao, glancing at the Imperial Snow Dragon Guards and the other troops. The Snow Dragon Guards moved towards Yu Menghe and the others to kill them. However, very quickly, he sensed a terrifying coldness surround his body. In Lin Feng's hands appeared some black fire which had turned into a black lotus. Lin Feng started flying incredibly fast, in a flash he had disappeared from the sky. A microsecond later, a black fire lotus streaked across the sky and burnt the atmosphere. It looked like it was the apocalypse. People were scared to death. Lin Feng remained silent, his silence made him look even scarier. With each step he made, someone started burning. The Snow Dragon Guards looked panic-stricken. The 3 commanders and the 9 officers were all going to die by Lin Feng's hands. Each time Lin Feng's Black Lotus touched someone, they had no hope. The troops from the Imperial City were terrified, the troops behind were shaking violently. Lin Feng was standing in front of them and killing their brothers one after the other. Besides, Lin Feng's pitch-black pupils were frightening. Lin Feng was looking like a demonic killer. He finally stopped as he raised his hands, his fire was looking even more intense as he looked at the crowd. Everyone dies, said Lin Feng indifferently. He opened his hands and the Black Lotus emitted a dazzling black light which was filled with fire intent. It crashed onto the troops and they all started burning, they were unable to put out the fire. Their horrible and blood-curdling shrieks were resonating in the atmosphere. Those people from the Imperial City were dying one after the other. Lin Feng still looked expressionless after killing all of them. He then rose higher up in the air, silently, looking emotionless like a demon. He didn't look affected by anything at all. Rumbling sounds kept spreading in the air, some terrifying deadly energies kept rolling all around. Jade Heaven people, you came here to attack Shandong by surprise. Don't you know what honor and integrity are? Asked Lei Mang loudly, making everybody's eardrums vibrate painfully. Lin Feng is not a member of Shandong, it has nothing to do with Shandong. So killing him has nothing to do with you, said the strong cultivator from Jade Heaven. Duan Wudao was a genius, they needed to take care of him and make him become stronger. If Lin Feng penetrated into the mysterious world of Shandong, Jade Heaven would suffer in the future. Therefore, they had to kill Lin Feng before it was too late. Very good, let's fight, shouted Lei Mang furiously. Thunders invaded the entire atmosphere once again. People were rising higher and higher up in the sky. The crowd could see nothing but thunder in the vault of heaven as the cultivators in the sky were moving farther and farther away from them. One of the strongest cultivators of Jade Heaven and Lei Mang were fighting, and it seemed like they needed a lot of space. Fight, spare no efforts, this is your last day, said Duan Wuya, whose smile looked increasingly evil. It wasn't a warm and gentle smile at all, it was an evil and tyrannic smile. Lin Feng looked as cold as before and calmly watched the scene with his evil-looking eyes. Of course he wasn't going to go and help the cultivators from Shandong. They had come to protect him, not the opposite. Everyone wanted to win. Chapter 724, Duan Wuya. The crowd was sweating profusely. They had come to see the wedding of the ruler of Shuiyu, Lin Feng. But now they were watching a terrifying battle between cultivators of the Tian Qi layer. They had never seen cultivators of the Tian Qi layer before, with one punch those cultivators could make the entire sky change. Besides, their energies contained intent and could kill millions of ordinary people. There were terrifying deadly energies rolling around in the palace. The myriad of people who were on the rocks back got off and penetrated into the palaces. That battle would determine the future of Shuiyu. Lin Feng, who had turned into a demon before, rose up in the air and remained emotionless. His evil energies were rolling around, nobody knew what he was thinking. The cultivators of the Tian Qi layer were becoming more aggressive. Their energies were all insanely rolling in the air. Some silhouettes came out from the Imperial Palace, those people were releasing warlord energies. The armored horses flew away, killed instantly as they had been unable to resist. Yun Fei Yang was still on the back of the rock, he was speechless when he saw those people. How strong! They were cultivators of the Tian Qi layer as well. How come there were so many cultivators of the Tian Qi layer in the Imperial Palace? Where were those cultivators of the Tian Qi layer from? Test, boom boom boom. A silhouette was attacked and flew away. Those brutal and violent energies were unstoppable. An extremely strong cultivator raised his head and looked at the rock in an indifferent way. That person smiled coldly and continued moving forwards. He was leaving the palace and was followed by some other people. They came out of the palace and saw the battles in the sky, they were smiling indifferently. They jumped and rose up in the air while releasing some terrifying energies. People's hearts started pounding faster and faster again. Several more cultivators of the Tian Qi layer. That was insane. What was going on in Shuiyu? How come there were so many cultivators of the Tian Qi layer? Was it because of the great competition of Shuiyu? Was everything happening because Lin Feng had finished first at the great competition of Shuiyu? Who are those people? Wondered all the people who were fighting in the sky. They didn't know if those people were their friends or their enemies. We want to kill Lin Feng, said one person indifferently. People from Shandong started shivering as some terrifying energies crashed onto their bodies. The people of Shandong could hardly resist after those terrifying cultivators joined the battle. Some people from Shandong were projected backwards as blood splashed out of their mouths. A Shandong cultivator of the Tian Qi layer lowered his head and saw dragon claws on his chest. A disgusting wound had appeared and blood was gushing out of it. He couldn't manage to heal it with his pure qi. People from the East Sea Dragon Palace. The eyes of the Shandong people were bloodshot. They were already fighting against the cultivators from the Jade Heaven Imperial family. And suddenly, some strong cultivators from the East Sea Dragon Palace had appeared too. Shandong couldn't stop them. Precisely, said the leader of the group of people from the East Sea Dragon Palace, he was wearing a dragon Chang Pao and looked cold. Lin Feng refused to join Shandong, he is not a member of Shandong. Therefore, we will kill him now, so you should leave. We, people of the East Sea Dragon Palace, are not the enemies of Shandong, said the leader coldly. The cultivators of Shandong couldn't be fooled though, they clearly knew that those people didn't want Lin Feng to penetrate into the mysterious world. They were trying to use emotions to change their minds. I would have never thought that so many strong cultivators would show up to kill Lin Feng, I am very surprised, said a member of Shandong stupefied. He, no matter what, Lin Feng is doomed. Shandong cannot protect him anymore. If you don't leave, don't blame the people from the East Sea Dragon Palace for being rude, said the leader in the dragon robe. He then looked at the people from Jade Heaven and said, I think that the Jade Heaven Imperial family shares the same opinion. Of course, said someone else on his side. If people from Shandong left, Lin Feng was definitely going to die. They had come to Shuiyu for two reasons, the first one was Duan Wu Dao and the second one was to kill Lin Feng. All the members of Shandong were upset. Could they abandon Lin Feng? However, they were facing people from Jade Heaven and from the East Sea Dragon Palace. If they didn't give up, what could they do? They couldn't protect Lin Feng, it was a dead end for everybody. Of course, they really didn't want Lin Feng to die, it would be one less genius to enter the mysterious world. They were not resigned to leave and give up. However, regardless of everything, they couldn't protect him. The people from Shandong and Jade Heaven were releasing monstrous energies which enveloped the entire atmosphere. People from Shandong were all anxious and glancing at each other. They didn't feel like giving up, but what could they do? If they continued fighting they might all die. Besides, they wouldn't be able to protect Lin Feng, it seemed worthless to keep fighting. A strong cultivator of Shingong turned around and looked at Lin Feng. I cannot help you. If you had accepted to join Shingong, this might not have happened. That person looked grieved. Lin Feng was going to die. Let's go, said a cultivator from Shingong. His clothes fluttered in the wind and whistling sounds spread in the air. The crowd was worried about Lin Feng. It was over for him. The strong cultivators were leaving, so Lin Feng was doomed. Even with his demon form, Lin Feng couldn't protect himself. The cultivators of the East Sea Dragon Palace looked at Lin Feng coldly. One of them said in an indifferent way, "The Purple Dragon King gave you a chance. He proposed you to join us and gave you time to think, but you refused. You despised him, so this is the consequence. Didn't you know that this would happen?" Lin Feng looked emotionless. He obviously knew that there would be consequences. Those strong cultivators had hidden their cruel and abominable nature, just like Duan Wu Dao. Those people were evil and wanted to kill him. Yu Menghe and the others looked hopeless. Could they break free from such a situation? Surprisingly, so many people wanted to kill Lin Feng. People with incredible natural abilities could hardly survive if they weren't strong enough to protect themselves, so many people were jealous and envied them. Lin Feng understood that principle. The East Sea Dragon Palace people didn't hurry to kill Lin Feng. They were looking at the people from Jade Heaven and Duanren Huang. Today, we people from the East Sea Dragon Palace came to Shuiyu with another goal. The son of the king of Shuiyu, the second prince Duan Wuya, is now a member of the East Sea Dragon Palace. We have come here to declare that Duan Wu Dao is not the crown prince anymore. Duan Wuya, our new disciple, must become the crown prince. They wanted Duan Wuya to replace Duan Wu Dao. Everybody was absolutely stunned when they heard that. What a surprise! Duan Wu Dao and Duanren Huang's faces also changed drastically. The people from the Jade Heaven Imperial family were also astonished but remained cold. That came down to saying that Duan Wu Dao couldn't compete with Duan Wuya. Duan Wuya. Everybody was looking at Duan Wuya suddenly, the warm and gentle second prince. He was smiling in an indifferent way. He didn't look surprised at all. He looked calm and serene, as if everything was happening how he had predicted. He had planned everything. The situation was perfectly under his control and he hadn't allowed luck to play any role in this story. The defeat in Duanren City, the massacre of the troops, the war against Mou, Duan Xian Ye's kidnapping and so on. All of those things had nothing to do with Duan Wu Dao. Now, the gathering of the strong cultivators of Shingong, Jade Heaven and the East Sea Dragon Palace. Everything had been planned by Duan Wuya. Duan Wuya refused to be a mere second prince. Wasn't he as strong and capable as Duan Wu Dao? He was going to prove to everyone that he is even stronger. Chapter 725, Unsheathing the Evil Swords. Duanren Huang was speechless, looking at the people from the East Sea Dragon Palace. He frowned and said, "The Crown Prince Duan Wu Dao is a peerless cultivator. He is extremely strong. Duan Wuya is a ridiculous cultivator. How could he compete with Duan Wu Dao? Reigning over Shuiyu is not a game. Unless Duan Wu Dao resigns, Duan Wuya will never be at the peak of Shuiyu and will never manage to carry out a coup d'état." The strong cultivator of the East Sea Dragon Palace looked at Duanren Huang indifferently and asked, "Who is the king of Shuiyu?" He then turned to Duan Wuya, smiled and said, "Wuya, Duanren Huang wants to see how strong you are. Show him." "All right," said Duan Wuya, nodding. Duan Wu Dao slowly walked forwards and released a terrifying energy. It was bestial and ice-cold. His entire body was surrounded by evil moon qi. The dark clouds in the sky started rolling insanely. A vortex appeared above Duan Wuya. That vortex was getting deeper. The qi in that vortex was also terrifying. Duan Wuya was precisely under that vortex. "On the day of the great sun and moon, my evil moon skill works even better, swallow," said Duan Wuya. His qi was becoming more terrifying. It contained an infinite amount of evil qi. High up in the sky was a terrifying vortex and the dark clouds were being swallowed by that vortex. Duan Wuya was swallowing the strength of the great moon. What kind of skill was that? Duan Wuya's energies were becoming stronger. Many people were astonished. Duan Wuya had been hiding many things. Arf! The crowd heard Duan Wuya roar aggressively. His spirit then appeared. It was a terrifying and hideous evil spirit. "Ah! Surprisingly, you dared make me come out. I will tear your body apart," said that spirit aggressively, but Duan Wuya was still smiling coldly, which surprised the spirit. What was Duan Wuya thinking? The evil spirit raised his head confused. "Great Moon Day, bastard, what do you want to do?" said the spirit in an extremely aggressive manner. It seemed scared. That was the spirit of a cultivator of the Tian Qi layer which Duan Wuya had sealed in Celestial River. "I didn't use you for such a long time, you are going to die and become my cauldron," said Duan Wuya while smiling coldly. He then shouted furiously, "Swallow." A terrifying gravitational force then swallowed that spirit as it moved into his mouth. That spirit was roaring violently but the vortex above Duan Wuya kept absorbing it into Duan Wuya's mouth. "Bastard! The Tian Sha sect will never let you off," shouted the spirit one last time. The crowd watched as Duan Wuya absorbed the spirit. Duan Wuya's body started shaking violently. His qi suddenly increased and he reached the very top of the 9th Xian Qi layer. He looked particularly ferocious at that moment. The cultivator of the East Sea Dragon Palace smiled when he saw that. He was very pleased with Duan Wuya. What cruel methods. Reaching that level wasn't easy. The East Sea Dragon Palace just needed to help him become a little bit stronger and he would become even stronger than Duan Wudao. Even though Duan Wuya was evil, he was somebody with remarkable abilities. He could obtain what he wanted. He was very determined and patient. Some great things could happen if he managed to penetrate into the mysterious world. The crowd was staring at Duan Wuya, the second prince who had always appeared as a benevolent, kind-hearted, and warm person. But now he looked extremely evil. He was a master manipulator. People couldn't recognize this Duan Wuya anymore. They would have never thought that he could be so terrifying. The cultivator of the East Sea Dragon Palace looked at Duan Renhuang and said indifferently, "Now, dismiss Duan Wudao from his function and confer Duan Wuya the title of Crown Prince. Or are you still going to refuse?" "Of course, Duan Wudao is older, he should be the Crown Prince," said Duan Renhuang coldly. "You want to die," shouted the cultivator of the East Sea Dragon Palace. He was enraged. He jumped forwards and grabbed Duan Renhuang's neck. His hand looked like a dragon claw. He had remarkable strength. The chant of the dragon started resonating in the air. Duan Renhuang was caught off guard as he used his warlord punches. Even though the warlord punch was extremely strong, it immediately vanished when it collided with the dragon claws. Roar! The dragon roared furiously and more dragon claws grabbed Duan Renhuang's chest. A bloody wound appeared. Duan Renhuang groaned with pain. Blood started gushing. "How strong," sighed the crowd. Duan Renhuang had broken through to the Tian Qi layer and was monstrously strong. In Shuiyu, he was an overlord, but in the continent of the 9 clouds, the East Sea Dragon Palace was a group of monstrously strong people. Their members could easily kill Duan Renhuang. Don't get involved in their national affairs. "Don't you think that you people from the East Sea Dragon Palace are exaggerating?" said a cultivator of the Jade Heaven Imperial family. They were already fighting against Lei Mang, so they couldn't take care of the man in the dragon robe. They could only watch in silence. "Who said that Duan Wuya had to be the second prince of Shuiyu?" shouted the man in the dragon robe aggressively. The crowd remained silent. Those who were strong enough could say whatever they wanted. Since the beginning, Duan Wuya was supposed to become the crown prince. "That is an offense for the East Sea Dragon Palace," said the man in the dragon robe. Duan Wudao was also pulling a long face. He hadn't thought that Duan Wuya would be the final winner. "Now, kill Lin Feng and his people," said that person, looking at Lin Feng. Duan Wuya jumped towards Lin Feng with an evil smile on his face. Thank you for having killed so many people in MOU. You gave me lots of corpse chi to absorb, said Duan Wuya smiling at Lin Feng. You were there too. Lin Feng looked cold as his evil energies were still rolling around his body. I went there a short time after you left. The Dragon Palace gave me a Tian-level beast, luckily the beast was faster than your rock, said Duan Wuya smiling. Lin Feng, I admit that you have remarkable natural abilities. I wouldn't have thought that you would be able to defeat my brother at the great competition of Shuiyu. But now you will die, as well as your family. They will all die. Concerning Shui Ling Long, she belongs to the Dragon Palace now. They will all die. The crowd was shaking. Who could save all those people? The Jade Heaven Imperial Family, the East Sea Dragon Palace, the Deshu clan, Duan Ren Huang, Duan Wu Dao, Duan Wuya, Yumo's teacher. Lin Feng glanced at them coldly. He still looked calm and serene, absolutely unperturbed. He just looked extremely evil. Even if I lose my soul and become a demon, I will destroy you. I will not only destroy you but I will annihilate you, said Lin Feng while transforming into a terrifying pitch-black demon. He started dancing in the atmosphere at the same rhythm as the clouds. The dark clouds were moving even faster at that moment as a terrifying evil hurricane invaded the atmosphere. A vortex appeared above Lin Feng. That vortex was even more terrifying than the one which had just appeared above Duan Wuya's head a moment before. The black clouds were emitting whistling sounds and were rolling chaotically. It seemed like some demons were going to come out from hell. Some terrifying and ice-cold evil energies were whistling in the air. The coldness was piercing to the bones. What is going on? The crowd looked at the sky. They were scared to death. Was something new going to happen? Those terrifying evil clouds seemed like they came from hell. How scary. Meng Qing, even if I have to become a demon, I will make them suffer for what they did, said Lin Feng in darkly. Some chants resonated in the atmosphere as if a demonic seal had been opened. From Lin Feng's back appeared a sword. It was a black sword. Huh? The crowd was surprised. A sword was coming out of Lin Feng's body. Boom boom boom. The atmosphere started vibrating violently. The dark clouds looked even more insane than before. They were turning into evil clouds. Some metallic sounds were spreading in the air. From Lin Feng's back appeared 2 swords, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and finally 9 swords. 9 black swords had emerged from Lin Feng's body. Boom boom boom. Those 9 swords dashed to the skies. The vault of heaven was emitting terrifying whistling sounds and the atmosphere was darker than what it had been up to that moment. The entire region was filled with a hellish darkness. Those 9 evil swords made people crouch down and even crawl. They had the impression that they were going to die of suffocation. People were collapsing, they couldn't breathe, they felt like they were aspirating. It seemed like their souls were being torn apart. However, everybody's eyes were wide open and their pupils were so wide and round that they seemed like they were going to explode. They had the impression that they were going to die. The evil energy in the atmosphere was terrifying. The cultivators of the Tian Qi layer were all staring at that move and shaking. Those evil swords were terrifying. They didn't have such weapons. Those evil swords had their own lives and were incredibly evil, extremely evil. Those 9 evil swords were like 9 demons. Chapter 726, Killing Duan Ren Huang, the Evil Swords from the Mountains of the 9 Swords. Lin Feng was actually the one who had obtained them, thought people from Shuiyu. Back then, the 9 sword mountains had been destroyed and had disappeared, changing the landscape of the entire region of the 9 Dragons mountain chain. The entire imperial city had been covered by the evil energies of those swords back then but had suddenly disappeared. Nobody had guessed that Lin Feng was the one who had obtained them. However, Lin Feng was unable to control that terrifying evil qi. The cultivators of the Tian Qi layer were astonished. Those evil swords were dangerous for them even. Kill him before he starts using the swords, said the cultivators of the Tian Qi layer. They obviously knew that Lin Feng's swords were monstrous, they might have the chance to obtain them even. Their silhouettes all flickered and they threw themselves at Lin Feng. Lin Feng then shouted in an ice-cold way, "Come back." Some terrifying rumbling sounds spread in the air, the 9 evil swords turned into black beams of light and appeared in front of Lin Feng. The cultivators of the Tian Qi layer attacked the 9 evil swords but didn't manage to make them move. They had just protected Lin Feng's body. 9 swords, together, said Lin Feng. The 9 evil swords were roaring violently and emitting buzzing sounds. They immediately dashed to the skies, the entire atmosphere was pitch black as the sky seemed like it was going to collapse. Lin Feng stretched his hand out and grabbed a sword, a terrifying evil sword intent merged with the energies in his body, merging with his own sword intent. Lin Feng closed his eyes, this time he didn't resist and submitted himself to the swords. He even visualized those evil swords as his body turned entirely black, his mouth turned black, his eyes were entirely black, not only his pupils, there was absolutely no white in his eyes anymore. Lin Feng was a demon that had submitted himself to the demonic energies. A terrifying demoniac qi was flowing in his body. Lin Feng opened his eyes and black beams of light shot out from his eyes, illuminating the atmosphere. Lin Feng looked like a murderer, he had submitted himself. He wanted to kill all the creatures of the world. Die, shouted Lin Feng furiously. The evil sword descended from the sky and some terrifying black lights descended from the sky lacerating the atmosphere. The cultivators in front of Lin Feng started running away, their silhouettes were flickering. Boom boom boom. The guards who were at the big gate of the imperial palace were instantly absorbed by the black lights. A gigantic black fissure appeared from the ground. Those swords seemed like they had just penetrated into the abysses of the world. How frightening, thought the crowd watching those evil lights. They were shaking from head to foot, they would die if that sword had touched them. Let's act together and kill him, shouted Duan Renhuang furiously. How could it happen? Duan Wuya had already surprised him. He was much stronger than what he had expected, he hadn't thought that Lin Feng had the evil swords. He had submitted himself to the demons, he looked like an evil spirit with his eyes filled with evil energies. It wasn't the Lin Feng they knew, this Lin Feng could destroy the world. Lin Feng slowly turned his head and looked at Duan Renhuang. His pitch-black eyes looked ice-cold, he was slowly fusing together with some demon. However, he still remembered that some people had to die no matter what. Arg! Kill, shouted Lin Feng. He deployed the full strength of the evil swords. The sword he had been holding turned into 9 swords again, the 9 swords all moved towards Duan Renhuang suddenly. Boom boom boom. There was an earthquake. Duan Renhuang looked at the 9 pitch-black beams of light move towards him. Nobody paid attention to him or thought about helping him, all they thought about was moving away, as far away as possible from those 9 pitch-black lights. It was too late. Seal, shouted Duan Renhuang, 8 sealed doors appeared at the same time. Boom boom boom. The 9 evil swords collided with the sealed doors, but the sealed doors couldn't block those evil swords at all. They continued moving towards Duan Renhuang. Warlord Punch, shouted Duan Renhuang furiously. A terrifying physical strength filled with sealed doors intent emerged. However, Duan Renhuang looked depressed. The pitch-black lights were still moving towards him. A voice spread in the air, die. Sirrr. The evil swords were lacerating the entire atmosphere. Nothing could prevent them from moving forwards. The black lights twinkled, Duan Renhuang suddenly looked hopeless and desperate. The evil swords were moving towards his throat. No, shouted Duan Renhuang, his pupils were wide open. Was he going to die? Duan Renhuang was a member of the imperial family of Shuiyu, how could he die? Everybody admired him for his strength. However, even if he wasn't resigned to die, the evil swords kept moving forwards. Then they pierced his throat. The crowd only saw jet-black beams of light and a head fall down to the ground. Duan Renhuang had been decapitated by the evil swords. Gulp. The crowd gulped down and their hearts were beating frantically. The strongest person of the imperial family of Shuiyu, a cultivator of the Tian Qi layer, had been killed by the evil swords. Die, shouted the strong cultivator of the East Sea Dragon Palace while throwing himself at Lin Feng. The chant of the dragons was resonating in the air. Some golden dragon claws appeared and moved towards Lin Feng's chest. It seemed like Lin Feng was about to be impaled. Lin Feng moved backwards, but those dragon claws were extremely fast, he couldn't dodge them. Boom! The dragon claws crashed onto Lin Feng's body and his skin was torn apart, bloody flesh appeared. However, Lin Feng still looked expressionless. 3 huge demons appeared, there were 8 hands that grabbed the dragon claws. Huh! The cultivator in the dragon robe was astonished, he could sense the terrifyingly sharp evil energies. How insane! Lin Feng had turned into an insanely powerful demon. Fuck off! His dragon claws got pushed backwards. Lin Feng moved backwards as a furious roar resonated in the air. A dragon appeared and it bared fangs and flashed its claws. It launched out at the evil swords with incredible speed. Boom boom. The evil swords and the dragon collided. The dragon then disappeared without leaving trace. The cultivator in the dragon robe shivered, he wanted to dodge and move away but it seemed too late. 4 demons were moving towards him and had grabbed him, he was constricted. Fuck off, shouted the cultivator in the dragon robe. The chant of the dragon spread in the air again creating a hurricane, the 4 demons were projected backwards. However, the evil swords became even more dazzling. The cultivator in the dragon robe was frightened, he wanted to move back but some sound spread in the air and blood splashed about. His arms had been cut off. Roar. The evil swords lacerated his body. He was going insane, his arm had been lacerated. However, he had no time to heal his wound as more rumbling sounds spread in the air, the evil swords were whistling in the air. The entire atmosphere was filled with their evil energies. Die, shouted someone behind the evil sword lights. The cultivator in the dragon robe was in a frenzy. Another dragon appeared but was immediately lacerated again. While he was moving aside to dodge, the black sword lights were approaching. His body was soaked with cold sweat. Lin Feng possessed incredible natural abilities. Even though he had only broken through to the 8th Xian Qi layer and with his level 5 sword intent, he could control those terrifying evil swords. He could turn into a demon and merge with them. He was extremely dangerous with that new form. The cultivator in the dragon robe moved back, turned his head and saw Lin Feng jump towards him. There were evil black clouds circling Lin Feng's body. He was holding an evil sword. Lin Feng wasn't thinking about anything else but kill. We cannot kill him today, let's go, shouted the cultivator in the dragon robe. He had lost an arm. And because of the evil swords, they couldn't kill Lin Feng. They had no choice but to escape. Besides, Lin Feng had turned into a demon and his heart was filled with murderous intentions. Maybe he would die or turn into the slaves of those evil swords. He would never be able to go to the mysterious world in such a state. He started flying away as fast as he could, catching Duan Wuya on the way and ran off into the distance. Lin Feng could die alone, he was going to turn into a slave of the evil spirit of those swords, so it was worthless to risk one's life to kill him. Someone fell down from the sky, it was the strong cultivator of the Jade Heaven Imperial family. He was astonished when saw the man in the dragon robe. Lin Feng had turned into an authentic demon, the people of the East Sea Dragon Palace had to escape, they couldn't fight against Lin Feng anymore. They were panicking and hoping that Lin Feng wasn't going to choose them. Lin Feng turned around and jumped forwards towards Yumo's teacher. He decided to chase him. Yumo's teacher looked frightened. He was scared. He had never thought that Lin Feng would chase him. He had thought that he would be the one chasing and killing Lin Feng. Boom boom boom. Yumo's teacher sensed the pitch-black lights approaching him. He was shaking from head to foot. Those black beams of light were descending from the sky. Yumo's teacher cried out in alarm, but he couldn't escape them as they crashed onto his body. He had died. Another cultivator of the Tianqi layer had just died. All those strong cultivators had incredible natural abilities and possessed the power to destroy Xueyu in the blink of an eye. They could easily exterminate the cultivators of the Tianqi layer from Xueyu, but at that moment, their lives were being threatened. Lin Feng immediately moved towards De Shu Kong. De Shu Kong was still running away, but he wasn't very far. Cultivators of the Tianqi layer were extremely fast. In the blink of an eye he disappeared. Lin Feng looked at that silhouette coldly. He knew that he couldn't chase him, he wasn't fast enough. Lin Feng closed his eyes. He made the evil swords fuse together with his heart even further. And then he shouted furiously, "Die!" A terrifying roaring sound spread in the air. The dark clouds were rolling. The sword in Lin Feng's hand turned into a pitch-black beam of light again and shot towards De Shu Kong in the horizon. The evil sword was filled with vitality and intent. It was extremely fast. Ah! The terrifying sound of the sword moved far away in the distance. Then the crowd saw the black light swallow the silhouette. The evil sword killed De Shu Kong. De Shu Kong had died too. Boom boom boom. The evil clouds were emitting rumbling sounds. The evil sword moved back to Lin Feng and landed in his hand again. Lin Feng was standing in the air and looked like a real death god. There was only death in Lin Feng's eyes. He was a killer. He was filled with infinite murderous intentions and coldness. Nobody could get close to him without dying. Little Feng, Lin Feng. Yu Menghe and Lin Hai were astonished and staring at their son. Lin Feng turned his head around and looked at them, but in his eyes, there was only coldness and evilness. He wasn't Lin Feng anymore, he was a demon. He couldn't recognize them. Lin Feng moved his eyelids and looked somewhere else. He landed on the ground and looked at the king of Xueyu. The cultivator of the East Sea Dragon Palace wanted Duan Wuya to come with him. Duan Wuya didn't care about the king held no value. When facing danger, he couldn't abandon him. Lin Feng had become a demon and everybody was terrified. They were suffocating. At the moment when I was about to win against Duanren Huang, something else happened. I had been preparing that for such a long time. But that's life, sighed the king of Xueyu while shaking his head. I wouldn't have thought that you would be able to control the evil swords and then turn into a demon. From now on, I wonder how many people will die by your hands. The king slowly closed his eyes. He couldn't escape and he couldn't fight against Lin Feng. He couldn't do anything, so he was hopeless. Lin Feng's eyes were still ice cold. Evil lights were twinkling in his eyes, filled with murder. His sword descended from the sky and killed the king of Xueyu. The king of Xueyu had always been under Duanren Huang's control. He had died, then Duan Wudao and Duan Wuya had escaped with extremely powerful and influential groups. The elite troops of Xueyu, the Imperial Snow Dragon Guards, had also died. Then Yun Fei Yang had invaded the palace of Xueyu. It seemed like Xueyu was lost. From that day on, Xueyu would belong to Lin Feng. Of course, Lin Feng had turned into a demon and that was a big problem. Lin Feng, said a voice at that moment. Lin Feng raised his head and saw someone in the sky. It was Lei Mang. You are still alive. If you manage to come back to your normal self, don't forget about the appointment in Shinggong. Otherwise, you will be responsible for the consequences, said Lei Mang coldly, looking at Lin Feng's pitch-black pupils. Lin Feng's eyes were filled with murder. He moved forwards and rose up in the air. Lei Mang was astonished. Then Lin Feng raised his evil sword and a terrifying black beam of light shot out towards Lei Mang. "What are you doing? How dare you?" shouted Lei Mang furiously. A terrifying thunder emerged out of Lei Mang's body and moved towards the evil sword. But Lin Feng had really turned into a demon and couldn't control anything. There was nothing impossible or forbidden to him. He would dare anything, he just wanted to kill people. "Die!" shouted Lin Feng furiously. He was covered by evil energies from head to foot. His sword descended from the sky once again. His terrifying evil energies made Lei Mang feel more awake than ever before. Lin Feng had already become a demon and nothing couldn't prevent him from killing. "You're insane!" shouted Lei Mang. His terrifying thunders kept bombarding the evil sword. He then turned around and tried to escape. Who could fight against an insane demon? Lin Feng's sword moved towards Lei Mang again. Purple thunders were roaring in the atmosphere and Lei Mang continued flying faster and faster. In the distance, two people suddenly appeared riding ferocious wild beasts. There was a boy and girl and they were frightened. What had happened? How come? Lin Feng. Lin Feng. Those two people shouted Lin Feng's name at the same time. They had heard that it was Lin Feng's wedding day and had rushed over to Shuiyu from Dragon Mountain. It was Jun Mo Shi and Tang Yu. However, all they could see was that Lin Feng had turned into a demon. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.